Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the lead singer for Lipstick.
I'm Steve. I'm the bassist.
And welcome to the Lipstick Panel. Today on the Lipstick Panel, we are talking about Metallica and their classic album, And Justice for All. Considered by many to be the best album in their catalog, considered by many to be the best Metallica album. But is it even a good album? We'll find out today on the Lipstick Panel. Today...
God.
Today we have good friends of the show, Joseph DeGolyer and Kaleb Schweiss, two gentlemen who cite this as their favorite album, not necessarily the best Metallica album, but their favorite. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Thank you. I'm ready to fucking kill some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Murder for days.
And not just Steve's recording computer for giving us issues.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Windows 10.
No, we want to.
great
Joe wants
operating
to kill Steve with that computer. Two birds, one stone.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how I feel in a few minutes. Things aren't looking great.
So typically at the start of our episodes, we go around the panel, talk about our history with the band and the album. Let's start with our esteemed guest, who we tried starting with a few minutes ago and weren't able to succeed with. So Joe, let's hear your history with Metallica without Skype cutting us out.
Okay. So my history with Metallica is that I got into Metallica when they were in their dark days. So this was just post Saint Anger. That's when I got into the band, and believe it or not, one of the songs that got me into Metallica was Some Kind of Monster. But I was into like hip hop and stuff when I was in like middle school, and then I got into Linkin Park, and then my sister gave me the Black Album, and with the Black Album and K-Bear 101's mandatory Metallica, which was they would play an hour of Metallica before Loveline came on every weeknight as I was a young teenager. Kind of the two of those things together made me start to like worship the band Metallica, and I saw Some Kind of Monster. Eventually, the second album I got from them was Justice for All, because I was gonna go on like a big road trip with my dad, and we were in Walmart. I'm like, hey, can I have another Metallica album? And he said, sure. And so I bought Justice for All, and it took a few listens. I was like, wow, this sounds different than the Black Album. And but after a while, it became the album. And to this day, guys, I listen to And Justice for All on it at an average of like twice a week. I've been listening to this album for years. It speaks to me, and I'm ready to murder anybody who disagrees with me. So.
Look, I'm not going to disagree that it speaks to you, but you know what, I'll get into my thoughts a bit later. Kaleb, how about you? What are your thoughts on this album and Metallica?
All right, so I mean, everyone was into hip hop and stuff when they were little, right? Like that was a big thing around when Joe and I were kids. So like we had the Usher song that was like super huge and stuff like that. And like that was always fun, but for years and years before that, I was big into AC/DC and then eventually Metallica. So we had the Black Album at my house, and I think I was about 10 or 11, and that was the one Metallica album that my mom had. We had this really awesome like stereo setup. It's like insanely huge speakers, massive volume, like really chunky bass. So like listening to the Black Album on like a good sound system is amazing, because it's such a huge spectacle of music. You know, everything is like they have like 40 tracks for every instrument in that album, so it's like just massive. And it's not massive like Death Magnetic, where like the volume is just way too high, so if you put your car speaker over 20, it's gonna be so you actually can't hear it. It's so perfect and beautiful. So I've been into them for a long time. It's probably like, I guess it would be like 18 years now, and I was always like kind of slowly just getting into their older music and their older albums. And I had a buddy in high school who was really into Metallica, and that's when I really started to appreciate it, Justice for All, a little bit more. Because, I mean, for years it was, I really like Metallica, and I would like YouTube and look up Metallica music, and I knew all the big songs. And then eventually I started getting really into, like, the Memory Remains song and Fuel at the time. And so I went and I bought Reload. That was the first one I purchased myself. And then, of course, I was, like, sorely disappointed at the end compared to what I had with the Black Album. And I just slowly started, like, collecting all of their catalog. And I've just been a huge fan ever since then. And Injustice for All is a really big one for me, because when I think it was around when I turned, like, 17 to 18, I started, like, buying up a bunch of their albums, because I had just left one of my jobs and I was in between jobs and I had a ton of extra money, and I was like, I'm just gonna start buying all this stuff. And the funny thing is like, I was trying to get into Slayer at the same time, and every time I would buy a Slayer album, I would hate it. Like, the first time I listened to it, I'd be like, God, why did I do that to myself? Like, ooh, it's just so fast and, like, annoying, and he's just every 2 seconds. And every time I bought a Metallica album, I was like, yes. Oh, this is just what I needed every single time. So it was just a funny contrast. And that was when I started really getting into Injustice. And now, like, I played it so many times. I mean, like, at the very end of the song 1, my CD just, like, skips out and then ends. It, like, just ends the song. And I'm like, God damn it. I got too heavy with my little boombox playing 1. Doing way too many push-ups with it, and I smacked it, and I scratched it, and now it doesn't work anymore, But just tons of time spent listening to Injustice for All, and I think it's a great album, especially considering there's barely any bass. I mean, the most bass we get is the double bass drum kick in the whole album, like, for being basically nothing but guitars, Hetfield and Lars Ulrich. I think it's pretty damn good.
So, Steve, what's your history with Metallica and this album? You cover a Metallica song on a regular basis.
It's true. I've been in multiple bands that have covered the same Metallica song. I think you know what it is. As a basic white kid growing up in the Midwest, I enjoyed Metallica, and I listened to their singles when they got played on rock radio, and depending on how Greg edits this together, you might hear the mandatory Metallica bump that I, grabbed, because every radio station in the Midwest played that. And every radio station had the same bump of some dude shouting, mandatory Metallica.
Yeah.
Then, as I got more and more into, like, extremer and more avant-garde heavy metal, I drifted further and further away from Metallica, to the point where I go back and listen to Metallica, and I'm like, man, this is a little bit basic. I'm not super into it anymore. I'd never actually listened to an album all the way through, so listening to this album this week was the first time I had listened to a Metallica album all the way through, and I actually made sure to listen to the original studio versions of every song, because the YouTube playlists tend to be a hodgepodge of remastered re-releases and music video versions, and I noticed that on one of the songs, at least, the remastered version sounded way better than the original version. So I went back and listened to the pure version. I don't know. That's what I got to say about this.
Okay.
Greg?
All right, so initially in this podcast, you all will hate me more than Steve, but then there's going to be a face heel turn, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be everybody's favorite.
No, see, it was that way for about 20 minutes on the first one. Because Steve was like, oh, he's the fun guy that liked the shop theme from Final Fantasy, ha ha. No.
Yeah!
Now he's not the fun shop guy.
Now he's not the fun shop guy.
He's the destroyer
of songs.
Now he's
the guy who shit on Megadeth and Metallica.
It's the
guy who wants
destroyer
some
of
bass in the mix.
excellence. That's what he is. It's a corrosiveness to society.
So, regular listeners of the show know that I didn't really get into music until the year 2004 when I went to my first concert, which was Kiss with Poison opening. Grew up in the 90s, and I was just not into the music that was on the radio. I didn't like music that was dark, depressing, and angry. It just wasn't my thing. and so listening to happy, optimistic music just was more my speed. But I realized, as a 14-year-old just starting to listen to music, I was pretty much a late bloomer. Like, all my friends knew all these bands, and I didn't know anything. So Metallica was a band that all my friends were like, you have to listen to them, you have to check them out, they're amazing. And so I listened to, like, Master of Puppets, Kill 'Em All, and the Black Album, and I'm just like, I'm not super into this band. And then I started reading about their history, and I liked them even less. Because, like, oh, you guys are just, like, rude jerks to pretty much everyone you meet and are just kind of obnoxious, and your music isn't good enough to justify how you treat other people. And so I just didn't like the way they, like, treated other people. They just seemed like rude, not very nice people. But I DJ'd at a metal club, and so I got a lot of requests for Metallica, and I wasn't just like that ass was like, oh, I don't like it, so I'm not going to play it. So I played a lot of cuts from And Justice for All, from basically the entire catalog. Like, if I had a request, I'd play it. And this is an album that I would go back to over the years and re-listen to, because people kept saying, give it a chance, and I'd listen to it, and I still wouldn't like it. I would usually get about 3 songs into it, and then I would go listen to Crest of a Knave by Jethro Tull instead.
Oh, you fuck.
The album
you
that beat them out at the
motherfucker.
Grammys, because, like, oh man, this is a really good Jethro Tull album.
Never
You
heard of
think
it.
You think you're real funny.
I mean, it's Steel Monkey is like my favorite Jethro Tull song. Like, it's
Jesus.
really good.
I don't even know what that is.
Look, we all know the Grammys are the most objective measure of what was a good album in a year. For example, Santana featuring Rob Thomas's Grammy Award-winning song Smooth, which we all know is the best song ever.
I love that song. So fuck you again, Steve.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I fucking
it's a
love
great
that
song.
song.
I'm
I
on Joe's
love
side.
that song.
So I went, and when Joe said he wanted to do this album, I was a little bit hesitant. Not because I didn't want to do the episode, but because I understand when someone's really into an album, you don't want to hear someone shit on it. And so I listened to it, straight through, and I'm like, I still do not get the appeal of this album. It just wasn't clicking with me. And so I went on YouTube and I watched reaction videos to every single song on the album to see what do people like about these individual songs. So I did that, went back, really dissected the lyrics, dissected the theory behind it, and I enjoy it now. After 15 years of listening to this album on and off, I can finally say I like it. It took a while to get there, but yeah, I enjoy some of these cuts very much. There are a couple songs I would say are added to the playlist, added to the stay list. There are songs that get stuck in my head. There are songs that I think are brilliant, but I still have some issues with it. I think the production choices are maybe not very great. I think the fact that the guitar, the rhythm guitar, is in the exact same musical space as the bass is kind of just a bad guitar tone and bad arrangement in terms of the bass playing the exact same thing as the guitars. I really hate clicky sounding drums. Across the board, it's probably one of my least favorite production choices, and it kind of got started on this album. And so that does hamper my enjoyment of the tracks a bit and prevents me from getting into them as much as I would like. But the songs are strong. There's some great material on here. There's some great playing. And I think mainly my issue comes down to production and a couple of the lyrical choices. And there's a couple songs I have some lyrical beef with, but I'll get to those later. And that's my history with Metallica and this album.
I think they only just recently played Dyer's Eve live for the first time, because I think what it was is they couldn't play it. They were like, I don't know what was going on when we recorded that song, but we can't do that anymore. And they couldn't do it after they did it. It was just the pick of destiny was in that man's hands at that moment, and he
Right.
made Dyer's Eve, and then they were like, it was 2011 when they were like, okay, yeah, we played Dyer's Eve live for the first time. We made it. Yeah, it took
And when
another
you're watching
30 years to get back up to that level for Kirk Hammett.
when you're watching covers of that song, by the way, like on YouTube, no one ever plays it exactly right. There's something weird about the timing of like Dyer's Eve verse riff thing that just no one can quite get. So it's still kind of a pain in the ass song. But what is our ranking here?
Well, yeah, let's get right into the ranking. So coming in as the least best song on And Justice for All, The Frayed Ends of Sanity.
My favorite part was where they played the Winky song from Wizard of Oz.
You're not going to get anything from me,
What
Steve.
I'm going to do with this particular ranking, I'm just going to go into this, I guess. So I noticed that there's 9 songs on this album, and I have 9 complaints about every single song on this album. So coming in as the least offensive of Steve's opinions about every single song on this album is the bass is buried. But everybody knows that. Everybody knows that complaint that the bass is inaudible on this album, and that's kind of a bummer. I've ranked this particular song in the middle. I thought it was kind of funny that they did play the Winky song from Wizard of Oz. The solo was kind of cool, though. It sounded like a parody of a metal solo, like what you would get in a baby metal song, where they've got like that weird dude with the sunglasses just shredding obnoxiously and making fun of the genre. But that's still kind of a cool thing to do.
Frayed Ends of Sanity. Look, this is the only song on this album that's not like a 9.0 for me or above. Okay, this one's an 8.5. I love this song deeply. There's a lot of like great fucking riffs on this thing, which is honestly like that's half my love for Metallica. Is that the rhythm guitar work in Metallica is just like orgasmic. But this song, I think it's the only like knock I would ever give to it was the Wizard of Oz part, and then we didn't get to like the main riff. It just took a little while. It's a little chuggy and clunky, and the song's maybe a little too long, but I love the chorus of this song, and I love a lot of the riffs. And that guitar solo, it's the most dated guitar solo on this album. It's like a shitload of reverb and shit going on there, but I still love it. I still love this song. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I put it as number 7, and I kind of regret putting it above Shortest Straw, but I don't know. The thing is like all of the songs on this album I think are really great. Frayed Ends of Sanity is just not quite as catchy and as heavy and as massive as some of the other really good ones. It has a good start, and you're right, the solo in it is really fun, but not really any complaints with this one being at the bottom end. Like the last 3 on my list, they're like all kind of the same, like they're the same quality for me, and they could be interchanged with like the 2 above them possibly. But like I don't know, it's just not as epic. It's not one of the ones that I'm like, okay, if I want to listen to a song from And Justice for All that isn't one, which is already that's 80% of the time cut out, right? Because I almost always want to listen to one. It's probably not going to be this one. I don't just like peruse and like, Frayed Ends of Sanity, yeah, well, let's listen to that one. Like it's just, yeah, it's an okay one from the CD. Not really any complaints, sound wise, just not quite as big, in my opinion.
What's interesting about this one, and covering the Wizard of Oz song, is they don't credit the authors of that song as songwriters here. 10 years before they got super into intellectual property and, tried to kill Napster.
Glad it's dead.
Yeah, me too.
So, my thoughts on this song, I gave it 4 points out of a possible 9, so towards the middle. I thought it was pretty fun, pretty decent. I don't have too much to say about it. I guess what I liked the most was the intro, because Metallica, for me, for the most part, has struck me as a band that takes themselves way too seriously. So them just being goofy and kind of having fun was a refreshing change of pace.
They mess around every time they do a show. They always do some trash cover.
I don't doubt that they do that during a show, but I'm talking about on the albums. They seem to be like super serious all the time. And this is coming from a non-fan, outside perspective. Like, I've heard the entire catalog multiple times, but it didn't really stick with me.
There's like songs like Devil's Dance, where he's like, let's dance, and shit like that. I can't really say that they take themselves too seriously all the time now. Maybe back in the original like 5 albums, probably.
Yeah, when he had the handlebar mustache, he probably took himself way too seriously. It's like, I melted my face off, god damn it. This is serious, okay? Doing serious things here.
Anytime
That's
David
also...
Mustaine was around, they were taking themselves very seriously.
Yeah.
Dave Mustaine is really the one who takes himself too seriously forever and ever and ever.
What's funny, though, is he's the goofiest one, though. Like, as far as, like, weird things that he does on the albums that are like, man, I hope no one hears me listening to this weird part of this awesome song.
Which I think is why Megadeth is more appealing to me. It's like, yeah, this is like the goofy version of this band. This is great.
Yeah, it's the
I'm
goofy...
gonna unironically shred over the synopsis to a fantasy novel.
Jesus.
So next up on the list, we have Eye of the Beholder.
What? Why is that one so low? You fuckers. Right.
I mean, you only gave it 4 points. Steve and I both only gave this song 2 points.
Yeah,
So-
both of you gave it 4, both of us gave it 2. It's not a lot of points.
Yeah.
All right.
There wasn't enough points to raise it up. So this is a song that I think the lyrics are kind of dumb, but I don't have an issue with it. Like, there are a couple songs where I have, like, legitimate gripes, like, this upsets me lyrically. This is a song that's just kind of goofy lyrically, where the idea is you might get criticized for your political opinions, and free speech isn't really free. I mean, yes, but the Ku Klux Klan is a thing. If you start saying, hey, I support the Ku Klux Klan, then people are going to criticize your political opinions. That's a thing. So, yeah, I kind of think the song's kind of silly.
Freedom isn't free. Everybody's got to put in their $1.05. I'm thinking of nothing but South Park references this entire
That's not even
podcast
South
episode,
Park.
and I don't know why.
That's not even South Park. It's Team America.
Oh, I mean, whatever.
I love quoting this song, okay?
Yeah.
I love misquoting this song more than anything, because I'm like, oh yeah, that one Metallica song, like, you could do it your way if... Fuck. You... God damn it. I mean, I have it in front of me, but that's how it always goes. I'm like, I love that. You can do it your own way if it's done just how I say. I think it's perfect. And I think it embodies what happens when free speech is put into question, you know? Or like when, even with the current political climate, it's like, we're going to have compromise, but only if it's my compromise. We can do it, you can do it your way if it's done how I say. And that's how it is, man. It's powerful. It's great. I think
they might be the best lyrics on the album.
Yeah, that might be the best set of lyrics in here, except for maybe one. But one is more like, oh, it's symbolically good, not like, oh, wow, that's a great line. It's cool what they're talking about, but yeah, I think that's a great line there, and I think it embodies this whole like fall of Rome, little underlying theme with this album, you know, like the corruption of justice, the corruption of justice based on the system, based on people, based on free speech being censored, all of that. And I think the song is a great call out on some of those things, and we see it even today, you know, with the whole thing that's going on in the U.S. right now. You know, like we're gonna make a compromise, but then they're both like, oh no, it's gonna be my way. It's like, you could do it your way if it's done just how I say. You know, if they all quoted Metallica, I'd be like, yes! I'd be happier for both of them. But I think it's timeless with its dissection of politics throughout the ages and of the whole censoring of free speech stuff. And I get what you're saying, though, about, like, it's not that you should be exempt from being hated on for saying shit that's not cool, but you should still be able to say it. That's all they're saying here. It's a great song, so screw you guys.
They're just saying.
Just saying.
it's quite possible that it's based upon the mood I was in, interpreting the lyrics that way. So it's a decent song. There's not any song on here that I think is like bad on a musical level where I'm like, oh, that's terrible. So like the riffs are still good. It's still catchy, but lyrically, maybe my interpretation hindered my enjoyment of it.
All right, you should listen to some Pantera and tell me what you think about that.
Yeah.
I've listened to some Pantera. I like Cowboys from Hell, and everything else, both backwards and forwards, is terrible.
Mm.
But that one album, really good.
Look,
Which one? Wait, which one? Is it... Okay, which one?
You meant Cowboys from Hell, the album, not the song?
Yes, I meant that entire album is a good album.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Cowboys from Hell is a brilliant, awesome album, and all their power metal stuff beforehand is really bad, even by power metal standards, and everything after Cowboys from Hell is just the worst bro rock that I cannot get into in the slightest.
Respect! Work!
It's a great song.
Yeah, not for me.
Yeah, I'm not into that song either.
See,
So I guess I'll
those
go.
are bad lyrics.
I have the Beholder. So I basically ranked this album by the solos. I guess I'm going to jump up a couple spots in terms of controversial opinions and say that really, for all of these songs, the only really redeeming part for me was generally the solos. If you did an edit of this album where it was just like 30 seconds of the riff and then the solo and then the outro, this would be a much stronger album overall. That said, this song solo was a little bit weenie overall. I really like that like twin lead melodic solo that they do on a couple of these songs. One of my favorite metal bands is Arch Enemy, and they're all about that. This song does that, but it's just not a very good example of it. My comments that I emailed to Greg were much less forgiving than that.
Yeah, his notes were very snarky in the email. My thing with twin guitars, I'm always going to compare twin guitar harmonies to Thin Lizzy, and that's the band that, in my opinion, does it the best. I think with Metallica, they took more the Iron Maiden direction than the Thin Lizzy direction, which was a lot less about like walking guitar lines and more just about driving guitar lines, which, obviously they were more commercially successful, so it worked out for them. But it's not my preference. It doesn't have as much soul, in my opinion, but it's still good. I'm not going to knock it, but it's not my preference.
Just sighing after everything we say.
Thin Lizzy versus Iron Maiden. I'm gonna choose Iron Maiden every single time. So
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, you're all wrong about that. I'll fight on that one.
God damn it, man.
Like Lizzie just has way better songs than Maiden, and I like Maiden a lot. They're one of the best live bands I've ever seen. They were phenomenal on stage. As Steve and I saw them with Megadeth. That was a Megadeth opening for Maiden, and that was a great show.
See, Megadeth is the one that I would say is too much, because like when they're up there doing their 6 solos, they've just got their heads down, and Dave is in his own world, and so is whoever his guitarist happens to be that month. They're both in their own their own worlds, and it's not about the show, it's not about the energy. Like you see Metallica, and they're all over the place, they're freaking out, except for maybe Kirk. But, James is, like, a huge showboater. He's big into, like, keeping the crowd in it. But, like, if you look at Dave, Dave's just, like, Dave's got his head down, and he's like, all right, now it's time to do this solo. It's like, he's got, like, mild Asperger's. I'm sorry, Dave, I don't actually think you have Asperger's. But it seems like that when he's live, because he just goes into his own world, and he's like, obsessed with the technicality of the solo. He's like, we're going to do this right, and we're going to do this right now. And then he just lowers his head.
We're going to play all the right notes.
5-minute guitar solo.
That's metal, kids.
Yeah. And you know what? I will acknowledge this. I vastly prefer Megadeth to Metallica. It's a pretty wide gap. But objectively speaking, I would say Metallica is definitely a better live band. Even though I love Megadeth, I thought they were awesome live. I think that additional energy and stage presence gives Metallica that edge as a live act, even though I vastly prefer the music of Megadeth.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, live, Metallica's amazing live. They probably spend more than in one live show that Dave makes in one live show. So I mean, that's probably why. But I mean, shit, from like a mile away, you can feel the flames coming out of the stage, you know. And he's got to deal with some PTSD from that. James Hetfield. That's why he's so mad. He got melted. You get melted. See how Thin Lizzy sounds to you after you get your face melted off.
I mean, I didn't get my face melted off, but I did have some severe burns once, and yeah, it's unpleasant. Being set on fire is not a pleasant experience, but I still liked Thin Lizzy after that. So,
all right, maybe Thin Lizzy isn't connected to facial burns.
Which band did Michael Jackson prefer?
He's
Thin Lizzy versus Iron Maiden,
Van Halen.
Or Metallica, I think.
probably Metallica.
There you go. So that's 2 out of 3 people who have been set on fire prefer Metallica to Thin Lizzy.
They're the experts.
Well,
in
the
this,
numbers
in this
don't lie.
field.
So, any other comments on Eye of the Beholder before we move on?
Yeah, I think the melody of this song is fantastic, especially when he swings over to the chorus. This is the only part when you were complaining
it
about
sounds like a
Lars
Christmas
Ulrich
song.
didn't know how to do a swing beat. I was like, bullshit. There's at least one part in this album where he has a swing beat, and it's in Eye of the Beholder. By the way,
Yeah, this is the Christmas song. Do you hear what I hear? Do you see what I see?
Do you behold what I behold?
see what I see? Truth is in a face.
Yeah,
on,
this is the album where Lars learned how to do the drums for sure.
I think
You know
it
what?
was
I'll
in between
say
Kill 'Em
this.
All and Ride the Lightning.
I've been harsh on Lars's drumming in the past. He did a solid job on this album. I hate the drum sound. Absolutely hate the drum sound, but he put in a really good performance.
It's a super influential drum sound, though, Greg. Super influential. That like clicky
Oh, no, I recognize
kick
it.
drum. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, that
that-
clicky drum sound is something I hate, and it keeps me from really enjoying a lot of modern rock bands that I would be way more into. It drives me nuts. Like when we're working on albums and the drums start to sound clicky, I'm like, oh my god, Steve, fix it. I hate this. I hate this so much. It's a dividing line in the sand. I don't think I will ever like it. I can look past some of those recordings and appreciate songs, but as a preference, never. Never.
Would you say you go up to the drummer and say, you can drum it your own way if you drum just how I say?
You know what, I would say you can drum how you want, but I'm going to mix it how I want.
You can drum how you want, with a plastic beater on the kick.
You know what he did? You know what they did? They taped quarters to the end of the bass kick.
Yeah, I mean, the bass kick it's super influential. Like, I am not doubting that this album is influential, but it's influential in a way I don't like.
I mean, fuck, man. Like, in the breakdown of 1, when all you hear is fucking kick drum and snare, like right before the guitars come in and like crush you with the machine gun riff. Oh,
It kind of.
it's beautiful.
We'll get to one when we get to it, but I'll say, like, that click drum sound, it drives me nuts. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
I think you're fucking crazy. All right.
And it's not that the playing is bad, because I've noticed there's some Kiss albums that we've listened to where the drumming is essentially the same thing. Like, the parts are the same. That kind of, double bass kind of kick thing. It's just the sound is more muffled, and I enjoy it much more. The music resonates with me more. So it's not the playing I have issue with, it's the production, it's the mix.
All right. I got some more thoughts on the production, but we can move on to the next song.
All right, so another song with an awful guitar tone. We have The Shortest Straw next on the list.
Jesus, really? Why is that one so low? Okay. I can't imagine any of these songs being low. That's the problem. Love that clean tone riff. Love how it goes into the heavy version of the riff. I love the lyrics and the melody of this entire song. And then I love when there's like a false stop and he goes, all have said their prayer, and then the fucking band comes back in again. And when they do that shit live, it's fucking amazing. It's like,
yeah,
oh my god, yes.
that was pretty sweet. I put Shortest Straw second from the bottom. And it's kind of toggling between Frayed Ends of Sanity to me. And really what it was is I was like, okay, I've got Shortest Straw and Harvester of Sorrow. They're basically the same song to me. I mean, I know they're not, but they're like the songs that are like, here's the name of the song. And I was like, all right, I gotta choose one of these songs that's gonna be the one I like the most. And I chose Harvester of Sorrow as the better one. Shortest Straw is a lot of fun. I do like the false stop a lot. It's just, I love how it just starts out just super heavy, you know, just dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun. It's just fucking huge. But overall, like, it's kind of one of the more basic bitch songs of the album, you know? Like, it's good, but it sort of sounds similar to some of the other ones. And I think overall, its twinner song, Harvester of Sorrow, to me, I prefer lyrically and probably musically, but this one's just a little bit more chuggy and heavier, so I still really like this one. And this is one of the songs that I will just look up and listen to sometimes, you know, Shortest Straw, Harvester of Sorrow, songs like that, just because they're really fun, even if they don't offer quite as much lyrically for me, and musically, it's a good time. So I put it at number 8, though, so I only gave it 2 points.
Did you say Shortest Straw or Harvester of Sorrow?
Shortest Straw.
Shortest Straw. Greg.
Yeah, we're talking about Shortest Straw right now.
Oh, shit. My comments were for Harvester of Sorrow.
See, they're the same song. That's what I was saying.
They're not the
Listening
same
skills.
song.
To me, they sound kind of similar. And we were last night, Joe and I were comparing this album with Master of Puppets, and I just said, oh, Shortest Straw and Harvester of Sorrow are the same song. Because there are 9 songs on this one and 8 on Master. And they each got to have their twin song, you know, like Blackhand has Battery, one has Sanitarium, Welcome Home, and Justice for All has Master of Puppets. Like, they set their albums up the same, basically. And Shortest Straw and Harvester of Sorrow are just 2 really awesome long songs separated, or that were once one and are now 2. It's a fun song, though. I don't know. It's all right, though. I mean, it's not top tier Metallica. It's not top tier on this album for me.
I
But
think this song's about the Inquisition, Spanish Inquisition. If I remember correctly. Great lyrics, great riff. Fucking great solo breakdown. Fuck, man, this is a great song. There's nothing. I'm gonna say the same thing for
Irish
every fucking
folk
song
song
on this album because it's a fucking great song. It's a great song.
Welcome to me doing a Thin Lizzy episode. It's kind of the same experience.
And I love Hetfield's vocal performance on this album too. Shortest Straw is one of those as well. Okay.
You know, I think Hetfield's vocals are one of the things that unfortunately kept me away from Metallica for a while, where a lot of singers ripped off his style. Like, it's a lot of singers in the 90s and early 2000s were sort of a hybrid of him and Kurt Cobain, and I hated those bands. I hate Nirvana, and so I lumped him in with those singers. And so because of it, his voice has always been a little bit of a stopper for me. Where Dave Mustaine, like, he's just goofy and a little bit glam with his delivery, but James just, it just reminds me of those bands I don't like, and that's like another stopper. But he does sing well. He has a powerful voice. He has good stage presence, but yeah, it's just not my thing.
It's like his voice, like going through. You see that 1989 Seattle performance where Kurt Cobain was at, by the way. You can just his voice just like echoing throughout that entire like arena. It's just amazing. And they don't edit their shit. It's like they have mistakes and stuff, but like his voice back then, fucking amazing. And I also, it's weird to me, Greg, that you say that, because, like, I feel like James, out of the 4 big thrash bands, James has the most approachable voice. Out of the 4 big thrash bands, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, if you're going to talk to people on the street who has, like, the most, because they're all super weird, unique voices, it's just whoever, I think that James has the most approachable kind of voice for most people. So it's interesting to hear you say that, Greg.
I'm not saying that James doesn't have the most approachable voice, but it's the least appealing for me personally.
Out of the big
so
four?
I think
out of the
out
big
of the,
four.
Probably not. No, I definitely like him more than whoever does lead vocals for Slayer. Anthrax. I like Joey Belladonna and John Bush, so I'd probably put them above James in my personal preference. But yeah, Dave Mustaine for the win.
Wow.
Dave Mustaine for the win.
That's an
he's never heard that before.
No, he got
So
a
my
Grammy. As
unpopular-
long as Metallica's not nominated, he'll get a Grammy.
That's true, and they also played Master of Puppets as he walked up the aisle.
That's ridiculous.
And he was like jamming out to it
ridiculous.
because he's like, "Oh, I wrote that."
So part of my unpopular opinion that applies to this entire album is, probably earlier I should have mentioned that these mixes are all bad. And part of what makes these mixes bad is it's way too vocal forward. Like, James's voice is not the highlight of Metallica, but they sure mixed it like it was.
Well, would you say that Lars is the highlight of Metallica or Jason Newsted? I mean,
The guitar solos are the highlight of Metallica.
you think so?
And I think for a lot of their fan base, a lot of their core fan base, the riffs are a big part of it. So let's jump to another part of the mix, which is terrible. Sidechain compression. They sidechained the hell out of this album. You can hear it where the vocals come in and the guitars just shoop out. And it is bad. It takes it like all of the power, like these are supposed to be big thrashy guitars, and suddenly the sidechain compression kicks in and all of the power is gone from the guitars. What's their
I
name?
do not
Steve and
feel that
Mike
way
did a bad
whatsoever.
job. Whether they were told to by the band or not, they did a bad job.
Well, I mean, I will say that Megadeth is better at mixing, but Dave is obsessed with that, so, I mean, I can give you that. The mix isn't the best on this. Obviously, there's no bass to be heard. You might be able to hear it a little bit in one of the songs, but there's also a double bass pedal going, so it's kind of hard to tell what exactly you're listening to.
Honestly, I can live with the bass just being sort of a supplement to the guitar. Like, that's a common thing in modern metal, and I don't particularly mind it. If the bass isn't doing something important, just have it fill out the bottom end.
Yeah.
I think my issue is like it's coming down to also arrangement. Like I was saying earlier, the guitars, I'm not into the super beefy, like down-tuned guitars, super bassy, cutting out the mids. It's just I don't like that style. I'm a rock guy. When it comes to the rock versus metal allegiance, I go with rock. That's where I feel most comfortable. That's what I prefer. And so I prefer those, 70s kind of guitar tones and the kind of space they occupy. And so when you have these super bassy guitar tones, and then you have the bass playing the exact same notes at the exact same speed as the guitars, they occupy that same musical space and you get nothing from the bass at all. So even though the bass is there, you're not able to recognize it in the slightest. And I think that comes down to, a guitar tone that is just not well balanced. It doesn't allow for a balanced mix. And, obviously you guys like it and a lot of people like it. This album sold very well. So fuck me, in my opinion. But for me personally, it doesn't work and it hinders a lot of great material.
Yeah.
Like I've re-listened to Ride the Lightning recently, and that's a great sounding album. Like it's balanced, it works. Master of Puppets, also good production. This one just really, really falters with production.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I've talked to Joe about in the past. I'm like, I think Metallica has had better bassists than Megadeth. I think Dave Ellefson is great, and he's a pretty good bassist. But like the thing I love about Megadeth is they highlight the bass, and Metallica doesn't really highlight the bass. The thing about Cliff Burton played his bass like a guitar. So all the complaints of like, oh, it doesn't really supplement, it kind of is the same thing. That's the point for Metallica, and I kind of agree. Like it doesn't stand out as much as it does with some of these other, like even with Megadeth, like the bass solo at the beginning of Peace Sells, never would that be in Metallica. Like they would never have that, except for the weird random solo they have on like the first album, or like I guess the big Orion instrumental.
Yeah.
But everybody gets their chance in that,
There's like 5 bass solos in all of Metallica's discography, and most of them are Cliff Burton, and then there's one from Jason Newsted, which was actually written by Hetfield, I think, and then there's one from Robert Trujillo on the last album.
Yeah, they're all really good bassists, but I see what you're saying about how they... And Robert Trujillo plays the same way, by the way. He plays like a guitar. He's a freak. But the thing you lose with that is you lose the identity of the bass, and that's why some of those Megadeth songs, like when that bass just cuts through, it's like, that's awesome, it's great, it's just deep and heavy. But like with Metallica, it kind of just sort of blends in, especially if you're sitting there in the recording studio and you take that bass style on the track and you just kind of you turn it right next to off, but like just on enough that the light lights up on the panel just enough, so it's like, oh, it's there. I mean, track's on.
Okay, all right.
And look, I usually like my bass pretty low in the mix. Like I'm not like crank that bass way up. I think too much bass is worse than no bass, honestly. But I think in terms of like a balanced unit, it feels like something is sorely lacking, and it's kind of disappointing because I think bass does play an important role. It's foundation, it's needed, and I think the way this is done, it's just, who would try to combine bass and guitar into one instrument? That just sounds like a terrible idea. Only a savage would do such a thing.
Right? What kind of madman?
Steve.
Right? So an alternative take to, guitarists are down-tuning too much and it's burying the bass is maybe bassists in bands like this should keep up with the guitarist. Because, like, metal guitarists have for some time been in a bit of an arms race of, who can downtone the deepest and get the gentiest, chuggiest tone, and bassists have not often kept up. Some bands, the bassist's like, well, shoot, I better get a 5-string or a 6-string so that I can still be an octave below the guitar, but a lot of them are just like, yeah, standard tuning. And it's like, okay, well, your guitarist is playing those notes too. What are you going to do? Plug your standard tuning bass into a DI pedal and hope that anybody cares enough to listen to that?
This is an interesting conversation, but I don't think anything's detuned on this album.
I don't know. Did
I think
Metallica
this album
downtune?
is mostly in
Or
standard.
they just...
This is standard?
Yeah, this is standard tuning.
I think it is. Yeah,
yeah, it is, man. As a person who's played along with these songs on their own guitar, like I think they're all standard tuning. There is
then it's just that tone.
Yeah, that tone is honestly, Greg, I love this guitar tone. It is a crunchy.
You love the guitar tone on your favorite album?
It's a crunchy motherfucker. Now, I would say the Black Album has a better guitar tone and better production overall. And you're right. I wish there was some bass in this album. The remaster is a lot better. It's like every song it sounds about 40% better. And the bass is about 3 dBs higher. There are parts, because I've listened to this album a million times, really loud on headphones and everything. I can pick out the bass in a couple places in a couple songs. In Dyer's Eve, when they do the dun dun brr, brr, when they're doing the double stop thing, Jason's just a little bit behind the guitars, and you can hear his bass string slap a little bit. And then there's a couple other parts where there's some low end. I think Harvester of Sorrow is one of the ones where the bass is a little louder than the rest, but I mean the bass does exist. But what they were trying to do with this album and they were going drier and drier with each of the albums. If you listen to Kill 'Em All, it's got a shitload of reverb. Ride the Lightning has a little less. Master of Puppets has very little reverb. And then Justice for All, it's like the only thing that is going to have reverb is James Hetfield. And that's it. And everything's going to be right in your face. And it's amazing that they're able to do that because, I mean, the playing on the albums previous to this, it's not perfect playing. But on this album, they had to play perfectly on all the rhythm and drum parts. It just had to be like ultra precise because there's no room for error because they put no reverb on this entire fucking album except for James Hetfield's voice. So it's an interesting experiment, albeit it makes the album sound really dry after coming out of Master of Puppets.
I don't think it really, for me personally, I don't think the production succeeds. I think it hampers it. I think if you give this Ride the Lightning style production, it's a much better album. I think super dry production for metal is kind of terrible, in my personal preference.
Well, the nice thing
that
like Joe was saying,
album.
I mean, if you listen to like a Disturbed album, I mean, I guess you could kind
I'd
of
rather not
call these things similar. Like Disturbed, it's like so precise, you know, it's like so perfect, so clean. And I suppose and Justice for All is kind of that way too. Like it's all just very crisp, very reverb, like you guys are talking about. Like
though. It's not.
It does take some of the soul out of the music. Now, Disturbed has been soulless the entire time, but Metallica, you know, like there is some beauty in the fact that it's not always 100% perfect, you know, like it's supposed to be semi-chaotic. It's a mix between heavy metal and punk is the least impressive genre of music ever created because half the people are like, yeah, you know, we don't even know how to tune the fucking bass guitar. I just go out there and I just slap the fucking strings on the side of it and into the microphone and make a bunch of noise.
I'll tell you a giant troll is that I never thought I would come out on the punk side in the punk versus metal debate. But as I get to further and further extremes of both spectrums, punk has better extremes than metal does, and I was really trolled by that.
All right, get the fuck out of here.
I hate punk. All right.
Oh,
Punk
The best thing that Glenn Danzig ever did was leave that shitty band, the Misfits, and create his own fucking band. That's awesome. All right, it's the best thing that's ever come out of punk.
Misfits the other day. I was enjoying it.
Fuck,
Misfits
dude.
can go suck a dick. Danzig is way better. Oh my god, you're right, Schweiss.
Oh no, Danzig is way better, but as I've I look at stuff like black metal and things that I'm not into, and I keep discovering all these great early punk bands like Dead Boys and Bad Brains. I'm like, shit, I think I like punk. What happened to me? Steve made me listen to Minor Threats.
Nah.
Okay.
So
All right, what's our next
on
song?
to the next song?
What the fuck is our next song?
Right?
Okay, so the next song on the list is one of the songs I have issue with lyrically. And
Remember that
is
song we were talking about?
Harvester of Sorrow.
All right, I already gave my opinions on Harvester of Sorrow. It's a great
Right.
song. Love the false stop. Love the entire song. I think it's a great song. Go ahead, move on. Who's next?
All right, so I think this song is bullshit. So musically, it's actually quite good. But lyrically, I have a lot of issues with this. So as mentioned on the UFF episode we did recently, which will be way before this episode comes out, especially with the editing that needs to be done. You know, I talked a little bit about my past and history with domestic violence and abuse. And, you know, that's something that James has obviously experienced as well and is venting about lyrically in his music. And I feel as an artist, you have a responsibility in how you handle that material because a lot of impressionable kids going through the same experience are going to be listening to your songs and trying to relate to you on that level. And a lot of 90s bands, you know, like Smashing Pumpkins or whoever, had these kind of issues, wrote songs about them, vented about them through their music. I did this as well. But I think that the way that the lyrics are conveyed in this song are ultimately an unhealthy way of dealing with the feelings of hurt. The fantasy of going and murdering the abusers is, I think, a bad message to send to kids. As a victim of abuse, I got a little bit offended by the way it was done, where I thought it was clumsy and idiotic, and it just made me really upset. You know, obviously everyone has their own experiences. I wasn't there. I didn't experience what he did. He has his own life. I have my own life. But I think as an artist, you have a responsibility to the kind of message you're sending out to your fan base, you're sending out to kids, because kids will discover this music. And I think the ultimate defeatist attitude of this, where it's like, okay, I got abused and such, and then I went insane and killed people, I think is just unhealthy and not conducive for healing. And so this song, you know, I still ranked it a little bit higher because the riffs were bitchin', but, you know, I got some beef with the lyrics.
Steve, go.
Yeah, I'll go last.
Okay, sure. Let's see. What did I say about Harvester of Sorrow? I found this one a little bit forgettable. I found all of the singles besides one on this album were actually, you know, among the weaker songs on this album. I was a little bit disappointed. We'll go for another hot take. We were talking about guitar tone on the last song, and that's actually, I generally agree that the guitar tone on this album is good. It just needs some EQ to get rid of the woofiness, which I think the remastered version did that. That doesn't have anything to do specifically with Harvester of Sorrow, but, you know, one complaint per song, right?
Yeah. If you value your well-being, yes.
I mean, I could have led with 9 complaints on the first song, but then I wouldn't have anything to say for the rest of the album.
Sounds like you only have 9 complaints for the whole album, then. If that's the case, it's fine. You know?
It's true. Depending on how you want to multiply things. I either have 9 or I have 81.
Okay, 9 is good. I think 9 is healthy. That's what Steve was, or that's what Greg was just talking about, is healthy ways of dealing with
Healthy
with
ways
things,
of
one
dealing with being
complaint
traumatized by a
per song.
Metallica album. Murdering Metallica is not a good solution. Complaining about them on the internet, also probably not that good, really.
Right.
I should just go listen to some Our Lady Peace or something that I do like.
You know, and here's, you know, back to the lyrics on this track. You know, they look, as artists, they have the right to put out any kind of art they want and, you know, create any kind of statement they want. But they also have the right to be criticized for it, which I know they complained about on a different song of this album. Like, how do you criticize me for being outside of the mainstream? Well, you know, here's why I'm criticizing you.
I don't think they're talking about criticism
actually
in that song. I think they're
abused
talking
as a
about
kid?
censorship.
I'm not seeing anything that suggests that James Hetfield was abused,
No.
at least physically,
You know,
as a kid. I think,
Are you talking
his
specifically
religious
lyrics
upbringing was
about
weird.
this song's lyrics? Talking about
Yeah.
abuse? Okay, this song is about it's him making fun of Lars Ulrich.
So wait, he's making fun
Not
of
even
Lars for
kidding.
being abused?
He's making fun of Lars for being a hateful little piece of shit. And this is a song from his perspective. I'm not even kidding. This is real.
All right, so here...
It's
So-
overdrawn and it makes it sound like a super evil song, but actually, like, Harvester of Sorrow, the Harvester of Sorrow is Lars. And in another song, My Friend of Misery, that is also Lars, by the way.
That sounds like Joe and I's relationship. Like, we can't go on without each other in the podcast, but sometimes we're just like, ooh, God. Sometimes you just gotta punch him in the face and like get in a tussle and break some equipment. Damn it. Fuck you. You're the James, aren't you? I'm the balding fucking drummer guy.
I don't know. Personally, I love that hook. I mean, you might have moral issues with the thing. I don't really. I listen to a lot of metal, and I always think of metal as sarcastic or overblown and never serious. Like, never like, let's go kill people. And so
Yeah.
Transgressiveness is an important
anger,
part
misery,
of metal.
you'll suffer unto me. I think it's just like a fucking great hook.
Oh no, I'm not denying that the hooks are great, but I think like, there is a certain degree that art does influence people. And I would be dishonest if I said I didn't meet a lot of angry, violent Metallica fans when I went to metal shows. Like, that is a thing. Being influenced by art is a thing. And I find the lyrics ultimately, like, unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, my thing is if you're that malleable and weak as a person that something like lyrics to a song would influence you to do violence, or someone's suggestion would influence you to do violence, there's something wrong with you, and there's something wrong with your upbringing. So I mean, it's hard for me to be like, oh well, you inspire riots. It's like, well, I mean, there are a lot of riots when Rage Against the Machine plays, but I don't consider Rage Against the Machine the reason for it. The people are still choosing to go nuts. Like,
yeah,
so
but I
can't
feel like
say I
there's...
agree, and I don't think it is their responsibility to police the people that listen to their music.
Well, it's
I can
not
see
the responsibility of
criticizing
them
it
to
though, and
police
like
the
I
people.
understand your point, because for me, the only way to get something to be different is to criticize it. Like, smoking went away not because it's illegal; it's because it's fucking disgusting. It's because everyone decided, wow, that's nasty. Like, why are you freezing your ass off? It's -11 here, and you're outside smoking. You stink. Your teeth are all fucked up and yellow. Like, that's why smoking is declined. It's because it's disgusting, and everyone decided it's disgusting. And so I agree, and that's the criticisms that need to happen. But I don't know if I would be like, oh, Metallica, you made this violent thing happen. It's like, I didn't fucking. You have your own free will. You have the ability to choose what you do and don't do.
So this song is a criticism of how much of an asshole Lars is. Did it work? Did he stop being such an asshole?
No, God.
Well,
no.
So much for art being effecable.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man,
Effable, whatever the word is.
Well, I guess like what I'm trying to say is that it's not even that I necessarily think it's going to encourage people to do violence, but I think it's an unhealthy coping mechanism. And I think that's what I more have issue with. I do think there is a responsibility of artists, which most artists are very irresponsible with and just churn out bad lyrics. And I think with an album that has so many good lyrical themes, actual intelligent messages, they dropped the ball on this one, and I consider it a failure lyric.
You saw that research, Greg, about extreme metal fans, how they listening to the music itself actually induces feelings of calmness and joy.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's different ways that, people process things. There's different things that work for different people. And maybe it's because...
So maybe the problem is that Metallica is just not extreme enough to make metal fans feel peace and joy.
And also, this is largely colored by my personal experience, where this fits into the category of another depressing 90s song about how child abuse sucks and you're never going to escape it. It's like, all right, sweet, another one of those. I enjoy empowerment in my music typically, or I want it to be so silly where I'm laughing at it. So Megadeth, overall not very empowering, but they're so silly I'm having a great time. Metallica is this... If this song is a joke, it wasn't very funny. They didn't convey it was a joke very well. And so it doesn't work for me. I want either the empowerment to be strong or the joke to be strong. And this is just like, I'm angry. I'm like, that's cool, dude. Next.
I mean, the narrator does escape from the abuse in that he murders his parents, right? And then he ends the cycle of abuse by murdering his own children.
You end the cycle of violence by being really good at violence.
Look, those kids aren't passing on that cycle of violence to their own kids.
Touche.
Any other comments before we move on?
No.
Number 5 on my list, so that's fine. It's fine. It's fine where it's at.
So next up on the list, we have a song that Steve and I ranked pretty high, which is "To Live Is to Die."
I probably would have ranked this higher if it weren't for that voiceover.
I'm okay with the voiceover because I guess it was a favorite quote of Cliff Burton's.
I think they just should have had somebody else do it. The tone of the voice doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, so the reason why this song works for me is a lot of the reason why Metallica doesn't work for me is that a lot of it feels insincere and one note. Like, it doesn't ring as a true reflection of the human experience for me. But this song, I feel so much sincerity and authenticity and just love from the band. Because, you know, they lost one of their band members in a tragic accident. They loved this guy, and they're paying tribute to their fallen friend, and you just feel that in the track. You know, the riffs are great. The acoustic at the beginning is great. It kind of reminds me of some old Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin stuff. So, you know, it's more in my wheelhouse, but the music is beautiful. It's heartfelt. It's passionate. And I just feel the emotion coming off this track. And I think it's absolutely brilliant, both in terms of the composition, the individual parts, the way they put them together, the production, the guitars are working for me on this track. It's beautiful. This is amazing.
According to the Genius notes on this, they misattributed that quote to Cliff Burton. Again, with Metallica just stealing intellectual property left and right.
Are they big Led Zeppelin fans?
Maybe.
I like you, Steve.
This one I put at the bottom.
Okay.
And I put it at the bottom because it's not as memorable for me. I think it is still a great song. But as in terms of Metallica and their instrumentals, I think this one is kind of one of the weaker ones. We've got Orion on the previous album. You've got what's the one from the Black Album?
There isn't one from the Black Album.
Oh, is there not?
No, there's the bass solo take 1 from Kill 'Em All. There's Call of Cthulhu from Ride the Lightning. There's Orion.
I'm thinking of Call of Cthulhu.
Okay.
I kind of like those other two more. And To Live Is to Die is cool thematically, and I like the composition, and I like the guitar work and stuff like that. But I don't know. It kind of seems like a little too much to me. It's just goes on too long, and
It's every song.
I just think it's the weakest one on the album. It's still a good song though. Like I still think it's a great song. It's just not as great as the other ones to me. So that's why I put it all the way down there.
Oh, it is the longest song by 2 seconds.
Oh, see that those 2 seconds make it all, you know.
Right. Actually, that we'll chime that in as my complaint that applies to every song on this album. For this song, is they're all too long. I think even Metallica admitted this later, that every song on this album is too long. They could have cut an entire verse and chorus from almost every song.
That's why Black Album's the way it is, because of the songs on this were too long when they were playing it live. Look, I think this is a great piece of music. Really good instrumental, a lot of really good hooks in it. I am, in my mind, comparing it to Orion, which I think is a better instrumental. So maybe it's unfair to this track, not to judge it against the rest of Justice for All as much. But Orion, I think it just goes places that this track doesn't. And as much as I love these riffs, and I love the acoustic guitar, the build up into the main riff that Cliff Burton wrote. And the solos are really great and everything like that. Orion gets Orion goes to like a different stratosphere, and this song stays here on Earth. And honestly, like, it is really long, and so I usually, when I'm going through the songs on this album, unless I'm deciding to like do a listen to through the album, this is like the only one I actually skip. And it's not, I don't skip it because it's not good. I just skip it because it's like,
you don't have 10 minutes to spare.
It's in the way of Dyer's Eve, is why you skip it.
It is in the way of Dyer's Eve. I'm like, I want to get to Dyer's Eve now, and then I move the track out of the way, and then
I want to go. I want my face to go Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it's not happening with this Live Is to Die.
But I think it's a great piece of music. There's a really cool like electric symphony version of this on YouTube. like a bunch of electric violins and shit doing this song. And I thought that was a really cool version as well. So, but yeah, I like it a lot, but not in my top. I don't know. Where did you guys rank it? You said you ranked it high.
Steve and I both gave this 7 out of a possible 9.
Oh, okay.
God fucking damn it! All right.
Some variety, yo.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Yep, whatever it takes.
I'm coming at this as, a guy who's familiar with the catalog but doesn't know it like the back of his hand. So I've heard Orion, but I honestly don't remember it. I've really put a lot of effort into listening to this album. I've listened to it, I have no idea how many times at this point, at least upwards of like 25 in preparation of this episode. Like, I've been listening to this nonstop to really feel it, have it ingrained in my soul. And this is a standout cut where there are some times where I look at the length and I think about skipping it, but then as soon as it starts, I can't help but listen to the whole thing. And I'm sucked in and I love it because I'm feeling the passion from this track. It's beautiful.
It's the best thing you said all day, Greg.
Thanks, buddy. But I also will say this. Everything else from here on out, this is playlist material, great stuff. The stuff at the bottom was harder for me to rank. And the stuff at the top was pretty easy to figure out how I felt about it. But like everything from here on up, great stuff.
All right.
So next up is a badass bitchin' thrash metal tune with, some slightly problematic lyrics, but the song is so awesome that I give it a pass. Dyer's Eve.
Problematic lyrics? Bullshit. Great lyrics. Love the lyrics.
I said slightly problematic.
Lyrics are fantastic.
Wait. What number are we at right now?
Fourth from the top.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay. Dyer's Eve.
That same thing on the Rust in Peace episode. Like, wait, hold on. Oh, that's fine.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
if you compare this to, Greg got super mad when we did the Smashing Pumpkins Adore album because half the people on the panel ranked For Martha, the song about his dead mom, too low. So, of course, Greg thinks the song where somebody's mad at his mom for dying has problematic lyrics.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I don't know how I can... So we did...
No. Dyer's Eve is... He's just mad at his parents.
Yeah, he's mad at his parents. He's mad at his mom for being dead. And
Not necessarily. He's mad at her for different reasons. He's mad at her for basically not taking the medicine that could have kept her alive.
Yeah,
And,
he's got 3 songs about
Right,
that.
but the reductive version of that is he's mad at his mom for being dead.
That's true.
If she had recovered from her illness, he wouldn't be mad at her. I mean, he'd probably be a little bit mad because it seems like he's not super into Christian Science. And his complaint against his dad is probably legit.
No, like, the complaints in this one are
Well, his
much
dad
more
left
legit.
him. And his
So
mom
I'm-
refused to get cancer treatment. And they also, basically, they didn't get him ready for life. And this is like a super angry version of that. You hear, so there's this song.
I'm mad that I'm homeschooled.
And then there's The God That Failed from the Black Album. And then there's Until It Sleeps. And they're all kind of about his parents, or at least his mom. And you can see him through time kind of softening up. And it starts as like this super angry song from Dyer's Eve into kind of like it's still angry, but it's kind of more justified version of it in the Black Album. And then in Until It Sleeps, it's just kind of sad. But I like hearing those 3
I'm
songs in a
sad
row,
that
but
I'm homeschooled.
I think that this is James Hetfield's best performance on the album vocally and rhythm guitar. Because the rhythm is
You know what?
sick.
I 100% agree with that. 100% agree.
Dear Mother, Dear Father. And it's super catchy, and the song is just, it's going to melt your fucking face off. Like Schweiss was
agree with
saying
that also.
earlier, it's a bitch of a song, and it's so heavy and it's so angry and it's so thrashy. I think it's their fastest song. I think it's an extremely powerful song. It's the shortest one on the album as well. I love it. I don't have any complaints about Dyer's Eve whatsoever.
Yeah, with this song, I would say it skirts on the problematic line, but ultimately sides on not being problematic. Versus Harvester of Sorrow, I can give a solid thumbs down to the lyrics after analyzing them. This one is like so on the fence where I'll lean towards a thumbs up on it. But musically, zero complaints. Like, gives a great vocal. The band is cooking. It's fast. It's energetic. It kicks ass. It's catchy, which is one of my big beefs with a lot of metal is how it isn't catchy. This is a catchy pop song in the form of thrash metal, so I dig it.
Yeah, this is a great one. I love how fast it is. It's furious. You can feel the anger and the rage coming out of this. And Metallica, this year I've made it my goal to listen to and rank like each of the Big Four's catalogs against like each album chronologically for the other Big Four bands. And I've noticed Metallica a lot of times is the least thrashy of the Big Four. I still think they're definitely the best of the Big Four bands, with those being, of course, Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer. But they take it almost to a different place. And they obviously became more hard rock quicker than the other bands, and more successfully so than the other bands did. But this is where it really goes back to that, like, power thrash and like just insane speeds and sick solos, and like it's just fucking awesome. And this album, for the most part, a lot of it is like a really heavy rock album, and this is like the thrashiest thing they've done in a long time on this with this CD, and it's kind of the thrash high point of the album, to be honest. Like the other ones are more metal songs, like just I don't know. It's I can't really.
It's proggy.
You guys
metal.
know? Yeah. This one is like pure thrash rage. You know, like the Spit Out the Bone song that they put out a couple years ago. Like that is this. It's just insane. It's like the really fucking fast song that they put on every CD, and this one's like it's beautiful. I love it, man. So much emotion, so much rage. And that's my thing. That's how I deal with my shit. I just get real pissed. So I feel them. I feel
just
that.
Get angry and play thrash metal.
Yeah. And it does help sate it, but it doesn't make it go away. It's like Hank Hill says, like with the sadness, you just put it in your stomach. Just put it into a pit in your stomach and you keep it there.
So I disagree with everybody, and I ranked this one right at the bottom. I did not enjoy this song. And so, to supplement that, I'm going to swoop in with my hottest take about, like, the biggest thing wrong with this album is the snare sounds like shit.
It does. It's
the
a
worst
shitty
sounding snare, and it's turned up so loud in the mix. It's just this dry, crappy hitting a piece of paper snare all throughout this album. Slamming into your ear. Ruins everything.
You know, because I hate the click sound so much, like, the snare is not even, like, the worst thing happening, where I'm just so infuriated by the click, where I'm just like, you know what, whatever, yes, it's a shitty snare, whatever, I can deal with that, but that fucking click. But yes, it's a terrible snare. It's awful. I agree.
Disagree.
And that's my 9 complaints, so I guess we got a couple more songs to go through that I don't really have bad things to say about, so that's nice.
I guess one thing I'll comment on briefly is you don't like thrash in general. It's not your genre.
Not
and
generally.
So, this song is pure thrash. It's done very well. In general, the proggy aspect of thrash bands never impressed me because it more just felt like, hey, we're doing a different riff, but it's not necessarily like something that's super impressive to play or really throwing me for a loop arrangement-wise. It's just like, all right, you just put a bunch of riffs in a row and called it prog. It doesn't meet my prog criteria because I'm looking at bands like Rush and Genesis and Yes and unfavorably comparing them to that when I shouldn't. I should just be enjoying them for what they are. And so taking that aspect out of it, I'm able to enjoy the quote-unquote proggier elements of this album. But this song, it's pure thrash. It kicks ass. If you have appreciation for the genre, you'll enjoy it. If you don't, then yes, this song is not going to work for you at all.
The trick is more thrash bands need to play in 7/4.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Pick weird time signatures.
We got some time signature stuff in a later song, I think.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not at all present on the album, but I'm saying this album gets a lot of credit for being really proggy when it's not as proggy as people say it is.
No, there's only one song that is that proggy. The one with weird time signature changes and shit. Most of the album is just really long. It's got a lot of riffs. You're right. As far as the thrash metal groups are, and as far as like big, angry heavy metal, because like there's the heavy metal that you listen to, Greg, and then there's the heavy metal that most people associate now with the word heavy metal. And as far as that is concerned, it is definitely more proggy. But yeah, Rush is definitely Rush, Deep Purple, they're way more proggy, shit like that. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah, the stuff I listen to that's quote-unquote heavy metal is more in line with, like, new wave of British heavy metal. So stuff like Saxon, and I was listening to some Angel Witch today. So stuff that no one considers metal by modern standards, but was once metal.
Yeah,
This is,
Metallica's starting to go back into that area, too. Like, I talked to my friend Drew. He doesn't even think of Metallica as metal. Like, what?
They're metallic.
They have metal in the name.
I
They
know.
have metallic in the name. That's always been my thought with calling this a metal band, is like, I feel like their name makes them not metal. Because the name isn't metal, the name is Metallica. They're kind of metal.
No, I think, honestly, Metallica has perhaps the best name for a metal band. Like,
They're also
that, they have a
the biggest
sweet
metal
logo,
band.
they have an amazing name. Like, Metallica, it always felt really weird to me that I didn't like the band, because, like, I should like them. That's a bitchin' logo, and that's a cool name. Why do I not like this band? Why won't it work?
Because you're waiting for Metallica.
There you
You know, Greg, it's so odd. They are the biggest metal band by far. Like, they're
Yes, I acknowledge
eons
this.
ahead. They're ahead of Black Sabbath. Like, they're ahead of everyone as far as like sales. Last year, I had a roommate look this up. They were the third last year. They're not even in their heyday anymore. Their heyday was way back in 1991. Last year, they were the third biggest grossing musical act in the world.
Doesn't Slipknot have like 8 members? Wouldn't they be the biggest metal band?
No. You know what I mean. Come on.
Yeah.
But
What,
They
I
also
think,
don't get. They only get a pittance because they have 4 drummers. Well, sorry, 2 drummers and 2 percussionists.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
if you stack up 4 shitty sounding snares, you get 1 good sounding snare.
Yeah, that's the Slipknot logo. That's their little slogan.
Honestly, I've always just called them a ska band. They're just a ska band that, sings about murdering people more than most ska bands do.
What I'll say about Metallica, I think they're probably, I'd have to look this up, but probably the biggest American rock metal group in history. The only real competition I would really see from them would be maybe Aerosmith or Van Halen. But I think in terms of international appeal, like looking at the whole global picture, I think Metallica is probably the biggest band to ever come out of the United States. And that's just a statement. It's not me saying that I think they're the best band that came out of the United States. Yeah. I mean, they're not even in my top 50 or 100 of bands after listening to this album. Like, it's a good album, but they're not anywhere near the top of my list. But if I'm looking at them objectively, yeah, they're probably the biggest.
Counter proposal: Backstreet Boys.
Oh shit! Never mind.
Although they had a shorter career.
Yeah, no, they're not as big as Metallica, but I mean, man, what a great band.
Nah.
I want it that way.
I suspect that it's Metallica probably isn't the biggest band out of the United States just because there's some pop group that...
I said biggest rock metal band.
Yeah.
Bee
I
Gees?
think Aeros.
Oh shit! they're
metal
English.
definitely.
Also,
metal
Bee Gees are
definitely.
amazing.
Rock, I think Aerosmith might be bigger.
That's true, because if you do open it up to rock, you get a lot of other stuff there.
Yeah.
Well, I think Aerosmith's really like their
uh,
only competition, especially on a worldwide level, because Van Halen is like a U.S. only band, and like around the world, like kind of obscure. Like in England, they're known as a goofy one-hit wonder that did Jump.
I don't know, what
That's
about
a
Tom
shitty
Petty?
song.
That's their worst
man,
song.
Jump is great. I love it.
No.
Van Halen is trash.
Whoa.
Oh god.
Like,
Yep, they have Hot for Teacher, and that's it.
You are.
Ooh,
You know what?
Scandalous.
You're just straight up wrong, dude. Like, Dave Lee Roth is the greatest frontman in the history of rock music. And Van Halen isn't even in my top 10. But Diamond Dave is a force to be reckoned with in rock music. Like, and him, like that entire band, no, you're absolute insanity. I'm just going to move on to the next song.
All right.
Next up on the list,
what's our number
And
3?
Justice for All, title track.
Fuck yeah. Love this fucking song. Shit.
Number 3.
Like, honestly, when I got this album, as a young man, as a young boy, this was a skipper for me, because it was just weird. Like, to me, like the riffs never ended. just like each of the parts of the song just kept going. I didn't know what like prog rock was. I hadn't like gotten into Tool or anything yet, so like I didn't understand that. Like, I was like, where's the end of the riff? Like, Enter Sandman, you get like the 3 repeats, and then you get a cool hook at the end, and then it repeats like that. But Justice for All, none of the riffs do that. They just like, so for me, it was like this weird thing that I couldn't quite get into. And over the years, as I've listened to this album, I've just like appreciated it more and more and more. And then I started appreciating the lyrical content. And then like I learned how to play the song a few months ago. Like, I learned like 90% of the song. I learned all but the second half of the solo. And just like the musical intricacies and the way that it like is going against James Hetfield's voice, and just like the weird turns that the song Justice for All takes. It's an odd one for the title track, but it's because it's like Master of Puppets is like a big, huge song, and Justice for All is like a weird, for Metallica, it's like a crazy experimental, long piece of music. And but now I just like everything about that song. I just fucking love. I love the song and Justice for All. It's
as we're talking about the constantly shifting riffs thing, I think that is something that makes the song a bit inaccessible for new listeners, because you know it's not following a traditional song structure, and so trying to figure out where it's going, it's hard to lock into the groove of the song. Despite the song actually having, you know, one of the better grooves on the album, because it's so just, it feels a little disjointed and weird, and right when you're getting into it, it shifts. And I can understand how that's unappealing. And honestly, if I didn't like force feed myself this album, like listening to each song on repeat 5 times in a row before moving on to the next one, plus watching reaction videos and then listening to the album over and over and over again, this one might still not click with me. But because I started to memorize its structure, I appreciate it, I enjoy it, you know, I sing along to it. It's, you know, good lyrics, well done. But yeah, this one, if someone said they don't like it, I totally get it, because it is kind of it's a little bit of a clusterfuck.
I think my favorite part of this song is that this is the first of 2 Christmas songs on the album. There was the other one that you guys mentioned earlier that had the one melody that was very Christmassy, and then this one definitely has jingle bells that are just like a weird sounding hi-hat, but I think it's jingle bells.
I mean, you know, I like jingle bells in my music, Steve. We have Jingle Bells on 2 Lipstick songs.
Those are also explicitly Christmas songs.
They are explicitly Christmas songs, but I did buy Jingle Bells to record Christmas songs with. So the song that has Jingle Bells, yeah, it ranked high for me. My favorite Metallica Christmas song.
Yeah, I could see that. It's got a little bit of that in there. So I agree with what Joe said pretty much. Like this one's one that I've grown to really love over the years. At first, it is an odd title track because I mean we're so used to groups that have their title tracks being like the big song, you know, like they know that this is going to be the one. And I think thematically, and Justice for All fits and it works as the title track because it all sort of encompasses this idea of like the failures of society and the system and like stuff like that, and like a bunch of the songs touch on that here and there, or like the failure of his parents, just like the crumbling of what is justice. So I think that it works as this is what this album is about overall, but it is kind of an odd song to have as your title track, and it took me years to really truly appreciate "And Justice for All" as a song, because it is kind of one of those odd ones, and I did used to skip it all the time when I would listen to the CD, and now it's one of the mainstays. I mean, I put it as number 4 on my list, and I enjoy all of the change-ups that it does. I enjoy the power behind the guitars with James. I just dig it. I dig its message. I dig all of it, and I think it is the perfect track to name the album after thematically, albeit odd to name it after the 4th best song, in my opinion, on the album to begin with. But I dig it, though.
Kaleb, you and I actually put it in the same spot in our rankings. I think it's a standout cut, and I think it is an amazing song. Thematically, it does sum up the album very well. But I think once you actually understand the song, like once it clicks, I think it's it works really well as a title track and just a standout Metallica cut in general. So I think it being the title track is completely appropriate. Once you actually understand it, it only took me 15 years to like the song, but hey, once I did, yay.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, one of my favorite moments from this song is just the verse riff. And the verse riff and the syncopation of the riff versus James Hetfield's lyrics at the same time. So the riff is like, it'll do a straight like down 4 times, so it goes da 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 da, and then he does ha da 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 da, and like the extra like note of the guitar slamming down in between his lyrics is just like, it's such a cool little thing that I found out when I figured out how to when I learned how to play the song, that it's just like, oh fuck, God, there's so many like things in that song that are just like beautiful musically. Sorry, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead and shit on it. It's your turn.
No, actually, I ranked this one number 2. Like, awful production aside, I thought that this was a really good song. Again, I really, really like that twin melodic lead solo kind of thing that they do on this one. This is one of the songs they do that on, so I ranked this number 2. The other one that they do that on is the one that I ranked number 1. It's a good song. Good song that, if only it didn't have Lars's shitty snare.
Tisk.
I'm looking it up right now. Elvis is quite likely the biggest selling rock musician out of the United States.
All right, that makes sense. Elvis does seem like he's bigger than Metallica.
He certainly is, yeah.
50 million Tortelvis fans can't be wrong.
So is Michael Jackson, so is Madonna.
Yep. Those are
Rihanna.
The 2 after him.
And
Rihanna's
Eminem.
from Barbados, though, so I don't know if it counts.
No, it doesn't count.
Wait, is she from Barbados, or did she just act in Barbados?
No, she's from Barbados.
Okay.
I know because I actually have a Rihanna CD.
Oh.
And it's from Barbados. It says made in Barbados on the CD. Is that why?
Well, no, but I became a Rihanna fan with I think her 3rd album, the one that has Umbrella on it, and then just started to look up her history. So that's why.
Other
the
American
Umbrella.
acts that have outsold Metallica: Eminem, Mariah Carey, Taylor Swift, Garth Brooks, The Eagles, Billy Joel.
None of those are surprises.
Yeah, none of them are better
Barbra
than
Streisand.
Metallica either.
Bruce Springsteen.
Springsteen, Kanye West, Bruno Mars, and then Metallica.
God, Bruno, really? God,
Yep.
we need another Metallica album.
By 10 million.
Okay, we need another 5 Metallica albums.
Or possibly by 50 million, depending on whose numbers you count.
All right, they're screwed.
Bee Gees are after Metallica, though.
They're not American.
That's fair. So if we limit it to rock acts, then like it's the Eagles, Aerosmith, Elvis, kind of Michael Jackson sometimes.
He's on the
Aerosmith?
fence.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. Aerosmith.
Well,
has so many
no,
fucking
actually,
hits.
all right. So it depends on which number you look at. So I'm
And
looking at the
Aerosmith-
Wikipedia. Aerosmith only has 85 million certified sales compared to Metallica's 95, but they claim they've sold 150 million to their 120.
Thing is, with Aerosmith and Metallica, it's like they're both bands that had hits in multiple decades, and stayed together for a long time.
Yeah, I guess
a
the
lot
thing
of,
that
like-
Aerosmith did is they were bigger when albums were still being purchased.
Right.
Now,
Yeah, so
Metallica,
that's an unfair handicap. So you take that
Right.
out of it. I think it's a lot closer. And also, I'm considering current concert draw when I'm saying biggest. So
okay.
I'm factoring in
Yeah.
album sales, concert draw, like looking at them in terms of their place in culture. That's why I think Aerosmith is really the only competition. I guess I'm
Well,
thinking
no,
hard
the
rock
Eagles.
because you have Springsteen. Springsteen and the Eagles, yeah.
Billy Joel,
Billy Joel.
T Swift,
T Swizzle, my girl.
favorite hacker, T Swizzle.
All right.
But yeah,
Let's get to number one.
let's get to the next song. So the number 2 song in our ranking. 1.
What?
What? What the
Coming
fuck is
in
number
at-
one?
You guys, your minds
Number
are blown.
one
Is
is
this
Blackened.
big single was number
Blackened?
2?
What?
Second
That can't
place.
Be right. Who was
So
the
here-
fucker who put 1 down really low?
I don't think anybody did,
Ooh,
actually.
I ranked it second place, personally.
How did Blackened get up there?
Oh, right. Yeah. Greg, you want to explain what happened here?
So here's what happened. There was a tie between 1 and Blackened, where we had 9, 9, 6, and 8 for Blackened, and 9, 9, 6, and 8 for 1. And in the case where the tie is the exact same, we do a coin toss. We did 3 coin tosses, and Blackened won each of the 3 times. So Blackened wins in a split decision. But let's talk about 1 for a moment, the second place song on this album.
You guys. Okay, all right. The math sucks. Cause all right, who thinks that Blackened's is a better song than 1? It's not me or Schweiss.
Yo, both of us.
Wow.
Steve and
Wow.
Greg.
Who do you
Okay.
think?
Okay. It's number 1 in my mind.
Well, let's
I was
But we're not
afraid
talking
that's
about
what
that
you
now.
meant
We're
when
talking
you
about
said.
one.
yeah, we're talking about 1.
All right, 1 is an amazing song. 1 is the greatest song that's ever been made, in my mind.
Have
It
you
has
heard I
everything
Wanna
that
Hold Your
Stairway to
Hand?
Heaven has, but they're better.
I think I Want to Hold Your Hand is better than 1, personally, but 1's pretty good. It's pretty all right.
No.
The
There's
only
19
song,
Beatles songs better than that song.
you know, we need not look any further than the wonderful mind of Jack Black to know that 1 is the ultimate song, because they wanted to make a song that was better than 1, but they couldn't conceive something like that existing. So
I
they
thought
made
it was
the
Stairway
song
to Heaven
Tribute.
was the song they were trying to write a better song than. I thought they were trying to write a song that was better than Stairway to Heaven. Wasn't that what Tribute was about? Stairway?
No.
No, it's
I
about
literally
1.
put the quote into the chat yesterday. It's about 1.
Yeah, Stairway to Heaven is just a lesser 1, really.
Now, I disagree with Schweiss on this one, but go ahead, Schweiss.
You think Stairway to Heaven is a better song?
No, I'm saying I think that Stairway to Heaven is the best rock song of all time, and I think that 1 is the best metal song of all time. That's where I'm at. And as far
I
as
don't
like
think it's a-
versing the two, they're both kind of the same thing. So they both like they go throughout the entirety. Like they go from like soft to like mid tempo to just blazing versions of the genre that they're in. They're both big, huge ballads that build and build and build. They both have incredible solos at the end. It's just that Metallica's one is the metal one, and Stairway to Heaven is the rock one. That's how I feel about it. They're both just like masterpiece songs that kind of cover everything in their genre up to that time, and do the best version of it as well. So.
I think Stairway is a great song that's unfortunately overplayed, and so it lost some of its magic for me personally.
Nope.
But I do think that Freebird is a better rock song than Stairway, as we're talking about the most epic, awesome rock songs of all time.
No,
but not to
Freebird's
derail
too long.
Hot take Troy in.
But not to derail this too much, to get back to one. Brilliant lyrics. It lost a little bit of points for me. And by lost points, I mean didn't actually lose points and still ended up in the same place. But when I found out that it wasn't an original concept they came up with, but it was from a book and movie, the idea of the soldier who loses his sight, his ability to speak, his ability to hear, loses all his limbs. I thought they came up with that idea themselves, and I thought, wow, that's really clever. Like, oh, you took it from something else.
See, I thought it was a Twilight Zone episode.
There was a movie, Johnny Got His Gun or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a book called Johnny Got His Gun, and they actually bought the rights to the movie.
Yeah, they bought the rights to the movie. I looked it up earlier today. But as it stands, this is one of the songs that I remembered before going into this album, because I'm from Cleveland. That's a big metal city, and you're just, whether you like Metallica or you don't, you're going to hear it. I heard this song a lot. But really diving into it, analyzing the craft of it, made me appreciate it a lot more. I think if the drum production was different, I would like this song a lot more than I do, and I probably would have liked it upon first listen. And I think that probably kept me away from the song for years, but the song works for me now. I enjoy it quite a bit. I ranked it second place. It's a playlist song. I think it's very good. Great tune.
Okay, so what happened here was that Joe and I put 1 as number 1. Joe, did you put Blackened at number 2?
No, I put it as number 3. Pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe's the one who brought Blackened down, and Steve is the one who brought 1 down.
It's just not as good as To Live Is to Die.
Wait, so you put 1 at number 3, Steve?
No, I put it at number 4.
You fuck. Okay. I was going to say the math is wrong if you guys put it at 2 and 1, because we put it at 1, and God damn it, I made Blackened win. Fuck. I had a feeling that happened last night, because I sent my list to Greg, and he's like, well, there's a clear winner now, and I'm like, something tells me it's not the rightful heir to the winner's throne.
When I said there's a clear winner, I wasn't looking at the list. Like, I had everything in the spreadsheet beforehand, but I thought, one's going to win. Like, that was my prediction.
Oh, so you thought what I thought wasn't going to happen, and we were both wrong.
Yes, we were both wrong.
Great.
I think 1 should clearly be number 1 because it's called 1. I think that should
But it's number 2 on this list.
We'll go
according
now
to Matt
2.
and 3 coin flips.
According to
Think
Matt,
of how
and
much
clearly
lesser
God.
of a song name 2 is. Just 2.
So the second best song on this album is song number 2 by Blur.
That is a shitty song. Get that out of this discussion. That is a song that enrages me. Why'd you bring that up, dude? That's an awful song.
Really? I mean, it's the only good Blur song, and
one is
about
so
heavy
good
metal.
though. I mean, let's
get back to Metallica. Start talking about that Blur shit.
It's everything that a metal song needs to be. It's got that slow build up, and it becomes super chaotic, and then the machine gun replicating like guitar riffs near the end with that with that chorus coming in. Like, that is the most amazing part of any song I have ever heard in my life. You've got that heavy ass guitar machine gun sound, and then James Hetfield comes in with darkness imprisoning me, all that I see, absolute horror, I cannot live, I cannot die, trapped in myself. God, sorry, I almost lost it.
Body my holding cell.
Body my
Just sort of
holding
fugue out and begin
cell.
reciting Metallica lyrics for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's how it is. Sorry, I bumped I knocked something over and I had to stop there. But it's so fucking powerful. And then you go from that a couple rounds of the excellent chorus into like the most incredible sounding solo to me ever. Just fucking madness. The lyrical content is 10 out of 10. The machine gun fire is 10 out of 10. The fucking solo is incredible. The whole build up for it. It's an experience more than it is a song to me. And I've listened to this song like thousands of times. Thousands upon thousands of times, I'm sure by now. Like sometimes I'll just listen to it like 8 or 9 times in a row, and like it's all about that breakdown part. It's all about that climax of the fucking machine gun. Yeah, it's so good, man.
Ironically, that's my least favorite part of the song.
What?
Because it's the most traditionally metal part of the song, and it's a side of metal that I'm not as into. It reminds me of what, Pantera would do later, which obviously they just copped from Metallica. But I think what really made the song work for me was really diving in and analyzing the lyrics. Musically, like the clicky drums, and just I'm not into music that's this angry typically. Which, yes, the anger is justified, the lyrics are good, but when angry music for me, it's a flavor, but when it's an entire album, when it's a band's core thing, it doesn't work for me as much. So the Sex Pistols is a band I don't like at all. They're a punk band, but the we're angry all the time thing doesn't work for me as much. And so Metallica being angry like 90% of the time doesn't work for me as much. But, taking the song in, really diving, full on into it, I like it now, and I'm on the other side, and I give it a thumbs up.
God, I love the harmonies and the multiple guitar, like the layering on the guitar work. And like the slow sections, not only like the super simple verse riff, it's actually not that simple, but like the intro riff that turns into the like complex verse riff that I don't know how James Hetfield plays at the same time because the rhythm is crazy. But then like that beautiful Kirk Hammett solo right at the beginning, and then we get our weird chorus, and then we're like a more heightened version of the second verse, and then like the guitar harmonies, like the bam ba da 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 ba da 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 da, and you just like get those layers of the build up, and then it all cuts away. And then you get Lars Ulrich's drums that you guys hate the sound of. I don't give a fuck. And then it gets crazy. Come on. Oh, fuck. This song is so fucking good. Fuck. It's amazing. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, and see, that's what I love about Pantera, are those moments that it's like one. So, like, you and I are the complete opposites. Like, that's why I think Pantera is awesome. And I think they're better than, like, half of the big four of thrash, is because of that shit. And they do that all the time. It's not because of Walk. It's because of fucking... Cowboys from Hell or Domination, like the chug, the breakdown, like heavy metal, just like chug sections with the fucking god tier solo in there. That's what this song is. That's what the machine gun fire to solo is hey, just
talking
pure
about the song
bliss.
One just made me came. I just came. Right.
Yeah. Oh, I at the moment it was mentioned. Yeah. New pants.
Yep. All right, Steve.
I mean, it's fine. Song's fine. Needs better production. I don't think it's the greatest song in the world, and I'm a little bit disappointed in that I'm flipping around on YouTube and I can't find this song being covered by Disturbed or Godsmack or even Slipknot, which I feel like would do it a world of good.
No, Korn covered it instead.
I will say that there is a concert I listened
to
with Sully Erna on stage with James Hetfield, and I mean, one of them has a better voice, and it's not James, so that I could see. I don't think the guitarist for Godsmack can play one, but I could see the lead singer being James, which is funny because he's like a midget, and James is a massive person. And so it's hilarious seeing him on stage, and James is like, Sully! This kind of higher voice, and he's just like, roar. This fucking child man coming up there. But that hurts. That hurts me.
Yeah.
Hear you say that. You can't. I can play the beginning like half of the biggest Godsmack song ever, and I am fucking terrible at guitar, dude. I am bad. But I could play the beginning riff of I Stand Alone. It's fucking easy. I think I could give the guitar to Jace, the 5-year-old boy here, my boy. He could probably play it after about 2 hours if he could not, get distracted by something else.
Actually, the more I think about it, the more I want to hear Godsmack cover one, in that one is explicitly an anti-war song, and Godsmack mostly writes songs for Navy commercials.
Well, what I'll say is musical complexity has never been my marker of a great band. It's always been, how does the composition work as a whole? So, Godsmack being simple to play doesn't mean they're a shitty band. There's other reasons why Godsmack is a shitty band. But
militarism being one.
That's one aspect of it. But as far as the song, like I said, it's a brilliant piece. It took me a long time to appreciate it, and so if we had done this album a year ago, I might have been in a place in my life where I still wouldn't like the song. So it's just 2019 Greg has a wide enough musical palette at this point to appreciate it, and I'm glad I like it now, because I would rather be a positive person trying to understand why people like things and like it than be a negative person who says, "Oh, this is shit and I hate it," which ironically is one of the reasons why I was turned off from Metallica, was because they were so negative and like, "Oh, this band's a poser and these guys are jerks." And I would hear stories about like bands that Metallica opened for and they try to be friendly to them, and then Metallica were dicks because they didn't like their music, and they were like, "Yo, we just wanted to invite you to hang out with us and offered you some beer, and then you were rude." So that always just struck me the wrong way as a musician, loving camaraderie with other musicians and, being part of a community. But, getting past the bullshit and the bias, it's a great song, and I'm glad that I like it.
Ooh, Avril Lavigne covering Fuel.
Yeah,
Damn
it
it,
exists.
Steve.
It exists.
Sorry,
and Nickelback covers Sad But True as well. That's actually not bad.
Snoop Dogg
Because they
covers
just kind
Sad
of
But
play
True.
the song. That's it. They don't fuck
Yeah.
with it.
What about that?
Okay.
That Atreyu cover of "Welcome Home Sanitarium" that makes you want to kill
It's not
yourself?
Atreyu. It's Bullet for My Valentine.
Oh, that's right. Oh God.
Yeah.
If it was Atreyu, it would
I
be
don't
way
think it's
worse.
terrible.
By the way.
No, I don't think it's terrible. Atreyu is a terrible band, but I think Bullet for My Valentine's okay. Hey Greg, have you watched the Metallica documentary, Some Kind of Monster?
I have seen clips of it. I've not watched the entire thing. No.
I think it's on Netflix right now as we're speaking, and it's an excellent movie. Just aside from everything, like really, it was in Sundance. Big thing, critically acclaimed. It's a wonderful movie.
No.
Also,
I mean,
really...
I know its reputation, so you don't have to sell me on it being a good film. I've heard people who hate Metallica who love the film. So
Greg's like, I know it's good. I'm not gonna fucking watch your documentary, Joe.
Is that the one with all the crying Dave Mustaine?
Yes, it's with the crying Dave Mustaine. I've seen that. I'm open to it. I don't have Netflix, so I actually don't watch a lot of TV.
Find someone who has it. Here's the thing. It's a really interesting look at musicians that have just come off of their big peak in their lives, and their lives are just like, they're in like a shitty place, and it's kind of them getting out of it. And I don't know, it's really interesting to see those guys, because you kind of like fall in love with those guys because of that documentary. Like that version of Metallica, that's the version that like I feel connected with. You watch like their old like Making of the Black Album documentary, they are douchebags. But it's like them becoming like more human through Some Kind of Monster.
And that might make me a bigger fan, because I'm coming at it from, that Black Album documentary, which I saw pieces of, and like other bands, like I remember Rat, like famously, like, did an interview and they were talking about Metallica, like how they invited them to hang out, and Metallica were just rude, like, you guys are a bunch of posers. So like, I'm imagining that as an opening band. I would not show that kind of disrespect for a headliner that's kind enough to let me play in front of their crowd that's there to see them. Like, to me, that's absolute insanity and something I could not
especially because you're going to
resonate
blow
with.
them out of the water, right?
No, I'm down
Later
for that.
on.
I'm down for blowing the headliner out of the water, and we've done that before, so I fully support that mindset. But to be dicks to them about it, I just can't. I can't relate to that. So maybe, you know what? Some kind of monster will be on my list. I don't know when I'll get to it. But yeah, I'll check it out. I'm definitely open to checking it out.
You guys must have opened for Disturbed then, because I think just about every band could blow them out of the water.
I like
Also,
a
I
couple
feel like-
Disturbed songs. Just a couple.
I
No,
feel like
agree.
I feel like some kind of monster actually like helped me a lot because I watched that as a teenager, and so like my rock idols had already gone through like the drugs and shit, and they were like their lives were ruined because of it, and like they were getting over it, and so like that's who I was into, and so I never got into that shit like as a young musician or wannabe musician at that point because I saw my idols, and it wasn't cool anymore in their lives. So I don't know.
I was
It's like
doing
it
drugs
totally-
before it was cool.
Yeah, I mean,
like-
I never fell into the drug thing either. I fell into the groupie thing pretty ridiculously hard. But the drug thing was never for me either. So I get it.
Well, the groupie thing, that's just part of being famous, It's whatever.
I'm not
Joe.
even famous, and it happened for me. So it's like, hey, is your band somewhat decent? Congratulations. Here's a bunch of chicks.
Yeah, the thing is they come and
Gotta
go,
go to
but the
Nashville.
things they leave, those don't go.
All right, so let's move on to the number one
Is that a
song.
Hoobastank
Through
lyric?
let's go through this ranking.
Scratches shaft vigorously. They stay.
All right, so from the bottom to the top, The Frayed Ends of Sanity, Eye of the Beholder, The Shortest Straw, Harvester of Sorrow, To Live is to Die, Dyer's Eve, and Justice for All. 1. But the best song on Metallica's And Justice for All, as voted by the panel and God via coin flip, Blackened.
You'll notice how my snare tone was better than Lars's there.
Ah,
Thank you, Caleb,
So,
for helping us the song win.
what's that?
I was saying
Thank you
Caleb,
for having it
helping
win.
us win.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
welcome. If I would have known, my greatest fear was to have one not win. Because last time I had Hangar 18 win, and that's the greatest song Megadeth's ever made. The second greatest song of all time, of course. But one, I'm sorry, one. But Blackened is a really fucking awesome song. And I put Blackened as number 2. Which, it's funny, because last night, Joe and I, like I was saying earlier, we did I was like talking about ranking the master songs against the And Justice for All songs, and this is one that we both agreed that we both like Battery more than Blackened, but Blackened is really, really awesome. I love when they have like a quieter sort of intro to the album, and then it just goes haywire. So it's got a perfect start to it. I love the chorus. I love the guitar riffs. I love just the breakdown. Him just doing his chorus part where he's got it's like termination. I love the echo shit they got going on. It's a very angry song. It's got some great fucking lyrics in it. I think Metallica lyrics are kind of underrated. I know overall, compared to a lot of groups, they might not be the best, but like in the big four, they're pretty damn good. So I enjoy Blackened thoroughly, and it gets you. It's never one that I skip. I've never skipped Blackened when I'm going through the album. Unless it's like, I want to listen to one right now, and then I skip a couple times and then grab one. But Blackened is a force to be reckoned with. It's an amazing opening track, and I just love it, man. It's a great fucking song.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote this as my number one. I think this is one of the ones that's the most coherent musically. The different parts flow together well. I do like the intro, that the guitar tone in the intro just sounds phenomenal. And I think my favorite musical part of it is the way it comes out of the solo and comes back in with the riff. I think that flows super well, and I get pumped each time I hear it. And you know what? I'm going to give a little shout out to Drew. This is way better than that Gojira album with the exact same lyrical theme. So, Drew, Metallica did global warming songs better than Gojira. That's for you, Drew.
Okay.
Man, I feel like I gotta chime in Drew's defense, and you're wrong, Greg.
Go ahead, Steve.
I mean, the Gojira album is great. This song's good. I really like the. I voted this one my number one, also because I really like that solo. I like the melodic twin lead thing, and they do a really good job of it on this one, and Injustice especially. Just that snare.
I love the snare in this song, dude.
I love the snare in the whole
awesome.
album.
I think the snare for me is more bearable on this track because I'm enjoying the rest of it so much that I'm not noticing how shitty it is. So, but yeah, this is a great tune. This is, like I said, stay list. This song, even when I'm not binging the album, like I'll just be walking around the house doing whatever, and then Blackened will be in my head, and I'll start bobbing my head and singing it. It's a fucking sweet tune. This is the one I'm most confused as to why I didn't like it sooner. Like, I don't know why I didn't like this song until very recently. It doesn't make sense to me because I've listened to this song a lot throughout my life. So me thinking it was, I don't know, I didn't think it sucked, but I probably thought it was mediocre before. I don't get how that was my mind. But, you know, whatevs. It's great. I love it. It's fantastic. Stay list, playlist, A+.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, there are times when I'll go through a real big Megadeth kick, and I'm like, man, you know, Megadeth might be the best one. And then I listen to, like, a Metallica album, and I'm like, no. No,
See, I still
God,
think if this was a Megadeth album, this would be my least favorite Megadeth album. I like this less than Risk.
What the... Okay, Risk, I listened to it again. I did rank it the worst on that Big Four round, but I actually kind of like it. So...
It's more my speed than this album. I think the songs on Risk are ultimately better overall because there's more skip tracks on this. I would say this is still a masterpiece. It's still a great album, but Risk is just more fun to listen to. I'm having a better time. I'm not annoyed with the production. I like all the songs versus there's a couple songs on here that really annoy me. But then again, I think this has higher highs than Risk's. So Blackened is better than any song on Risk. One is better than any song on Risk. It's just overall, I enjoy the listening experience of Risk more than this.
Okay, it's my turn. All right, Blackened. Can you start an album better than having a weird, like, harmonic guitar thing reversed? And then just suddenly have it cut out, and then have the like most bitchin' riff. The best thing Jason Newsted ever did for Metallica was write the main riff to Blackened. It's a fucking bitch of a riff to play, by the way. As a guitarist, it's the hardest riff I have ever learned how to play. It doesn't sound that hard, but it goes the da 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 da. That's all fine, but then it goes the da da. That is way more complicated than what it sounds like in the headphones, and it's fucking crazy that they're able to play that at all. In fact, I think there are videos of Kirk Hammett like screwing up that riff, like he just hits random notes near the bottom of his E string, and it's because that's a bitch of a thing to play. Every single riff though on this song is super memorable. From the verses to, the bridge, the breakdown, everything. Even, like, what's amazing during the solo, what James Hetfield is playing on rhythm guitar is like a kind of a different, crazy version of the main riff of the main song. And it's like everything in this thing is brutal. It's all to a 10. Yeah, amazing solo, incredible kind of halftime breakdown at the end, and then like right before the solo with all the guitar harmonies going up, leading to Kirk Hammett kind of like shooting out of the gate with one of the craziest and best Metallica solos ever. God, everything about the song is great. Lyrics are great. I only have a gripe with one lyric in this entire album, and it's actually from Blackened, and that's why Blackened is not number 2 for me. I think I put it as number 3, and it's deadly nicotine kills what might have been, and I don't think nicotine is actually that deadly, and so it's just like a dumb lyric. But anyway, outside of that,
If you take a lot of it, it is.
It's a perfect song. Yeah, if you take a shitload of it, it's deadly. But
Well, yeah,
I saw a
you'll just
CSI
die.
episode about this.
they didn't. I don't think they knew that when they wrote the song.
They weren't big fans
Dated.
of CSI in 1988.
Most dated song of all
The-
time.
So, question for Steve. What was better, Rust in Peace or this album?
That's a tough call. I think this one has better songs, but production on Rust in Peace is miles ahead of this one.
All right, so gun to your head, you're forced to listen to one of them. Which one do you listen to?
It's an odd scenario.
Right? I mean, I guess probably...
Otherwise, he's going to blow off your eyes, your mouth, your ears, your limbs.
I see what you did there. I'm probably Rust in Peace then.
All right, there we go. It's official. Megadeth. Better than Metallica.
No, not official. 9.
So I have a question for both Joe and Caleb. What are your thoughts on my turnaround with Metallica as someone who didn't like the band in general and then slowly coming around to them? Like, are you infuriated with my opinions? Do you respect them? I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are on my and Steve's thoughts. I know you're just angry at Steve, but curious overall and your thoughts on the ranking.
Well,
Go ahead, Troy.
Steve, I mean, Steve's redeeming quality on these panels is that there's got to be a number 1, a number 2, and a number 3 song. And we've only done great albums on this show with you guys. So Steve is redeemed by the fact that the 2 albums that we've done with Megadeth's Rust in Peace and Metallica's And Justice for All are filled with amazing tracks. Allows Steve to not be as hated because, of course, Steve is going to have to put one of those great songs at number 1. And as long as Steve isn't putting the weird bass one from Rust in Peace, where he's got the weird like crawl, where he's like got the weird voiceover, it's super hammy. As long as he's not putting that one as number 1, like it's fine.
Did we finally get
Steve's
an unprompted
opinions, of
something
course,
has to be
toxic
number
as
1?
hell, but
Yeah, we did.
We finally did it, you guys.
did you guys put that at number 1? Or did
No,
you?
No, but you just said that. You were just the first person to finally say unprompted something has to be number 1.
We have a lot of people say something has to rank in the middle and something has to be at the bottom, but no one has ever said something has to be number 1.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like Blackened is a really good song, and I put it as the second best song, so I can't hate Steve for that. I could hate him for everything else, but I can't hate him for that. So my rage at Steve is, I guess it's less than last time.
Tempered.
But yeah, it's tempered. I have accepted the fact that Steve is just wrong, and it's one of those things, you know, you just have to kind of fucking move on. It's like a natural disaster. It's like, yeah, that tsunami happened. Like,
I'll take natural
it was
disaster.
fucking bad. But I gotta go to work, you know, I gotta go wash up and fucking put on a fresh shirt and the same grubby ass pants that I've been wearing for the last 2 weeks and fucking go to work. Like, that's what's gonna happen after this. So my opinions on Steve are fine. But opinions on the album overall, pretty good. Wait, what was the other thing that you asked? What's our opinions on
It's
the
about
rankings?
Greg moving his opinion.
Oh, that's right. I mean, it's a natural thing to do. I mean, there was a time in my life where I thought AC/DC was the greatest band of all time. And one of my buddies, Cody, was like, no, dude, it's Metallica. And I was like, I don't know. And then over the course of the next year, I was like, wow, Back in Black is kind of annoying. Like, there's some really good songs and some really big hits, but like, I don't know. And then I borrowed Ride the Lightning, and I was like, this is pretty fucking sweet. It's pretty goddamn awesome. Maybe AC/DC isn't the best thing in the world, And I go through the backlog and I listen to the second to last album they put out, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. So, I mean, it's a natural course of human life to slowly love Metallica more and more. It's
but wait, I've been doing the opposite. I've been slowly loving them less and less.
Yeah, there was a time when Steve was telling me Metallica's not that bad. You should listen to them, Greg. That was a conversation we had like a few years ago. I'm like, nah, man, I hate that band.
I think Steve might be a hipster is the problem that might be happening. Now that like you're liking Metallica, he's like, yeah, no, Metallica's trash.
There's only so much love for the band Metallica possible in lipstick.
So it's being transferred onto me.
Right. Their cover of Whiskey in the Jar
you've got
is still
like
great,
X
though.
amount of love between the two of you.
No, the cover of Whiskey in the Jar is shit and is nowhere near as good as the original. That is bullshit. Get out of here with that
there
bullshit.
is no original. It's
I'm talking about
the
the Lizzie version where they're copying Lizzie's guitar licks. Like they're basing off of Lizzie's arrangement. And I wholly side with the Lizzie version. Get out of here with that bullshit.
Whiskey in the Jar is a great song by Metallica. And it's a great song by Thin Lizzy. It's a great song. That's why it's been around for hundreds of years. It's a good song.
Yeah, it is a great song.
They did copy his composition, though. It's the same song, basically. So I feel you. But it's just, it's a natural thing. It's like, I've got my little book for when my son is born, and it's like, baby's first step, baby's first word, baby's first time rolling on back, and you got all these dates, and I turned to page 4, it's like baby starts headbanging to Metallica, baby goes to store and purchases Metallica album with money from Pickle Jar, like all of these things are part of the natural progression of a human child.
Watch your kid think
man.
Anthrax is the best of the big four. He's like, you disappoint me, you're no son of mine.
Baby's first dyed goatee.
The best I'll give Anthrax is they're a lot better than I thought they were, but they're still number 4.
Look, Scott Ian is a great television personality to talk about the 80s.
Yes, and I will definitely rank Anthrax above Slayer overall, but that's just because of I don't think I'm coming around on Slayer. I think that's going to stay right where they are. Like, oh wait, so Nazis and just kind of trashy songs? Yeah, I'll pass.
Wait, what?
Like all the Nazi imagery and just like the songs just sound like incoherent messes where they make a punk band sound like coherent.
Well, they are arguably the thrashiest of the big 4, and they are. I would say that they're probably the most influential as well.
Yes, but
just
because
Metallica has their own sound.
No, they were influential. They have their own sound. It's just I don't like. I recognize Nirvana is a very influential band. Doesn't mean I like the influence that they had.
No, yeah, Nirvana is the death of amazing thrash metal. That's true, but I think it is natural to just slowly come more and more around to the Metallica. I'm glad you are. There are some great albums out there. I want you to join me, man, in my quest to rank the big 4. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I did the first set of albums, but the reason I haven't gone and done the other ones was because I was really binging this because I wanted to make sure that if I was coming on here with you guys, that I actually understood what I was talking about.
Yeah, you're like, I need to listen to this album at least 1/10 of the amount of times these guys have.
Yeah,
which means there's 24 hours in a day. I need at least 4 hours of sleep. We can do 20 hours of Metallica's and Justice for All a day.
Wait,
how many
Kerrang awards has Metallica won? Because if it's less than 2, then Slayer's definitely better.
Is Steve talking? I can never tell. It's so quiet.
Oh, sorry.
You just block him out.
Yeah, no, Steve was just making a snarky joke. He was just saying a snarky joke that Slayer won more Kerrang awards. Look, dude, I think Michael Bolton was on the list of the 100 greatest metal albums by Kerrang, which, in fairness, that was a bitchin' hard rock metal album that was on there. But, maybe don't take their word completely seriously.
Also, wasn't that
But also
sort of
that album was
explicitly a
bitchin'.
troll list to a large extent?
No, those were, legit. That was back when Michael Bolton was still doing metal. That was in 87. And, that's... Everybody's Crazy is a bitchin' album, dude. Michael Bolton kicks so much ass. Anyway, Joe, you're back to you.
Okay, thank you. Real quick, one of Metallica's top 5 worst songs is a Grammy winner. Better Than You. I don't know that many Metallica fans that do like that song whatsoever, and somehow it beat Du Hast out for Best Metal Performance, which is travesty. And I'm a Metallica fan, and I know that's bullshit. So your Kerrang Awards can go to hell. That's what I'm saying right now. Look. Steve, I don't understand him. I don't even think he's from planet Earth. I listened to the thing about Gojira, with Drew on it, and, having done Rest in Peace, and now having done this album, and of course his love of, the fucking shop theme in the Final Fantasy games. It all doesn't make any goddamn sense. He comes from opposite worlds, so I don't give a... I now officially... He's just there to, piss me off. That's all Steve... that's all Steve was ever born to do. Now, Greg...
Why do you think Greg has me on the podcast?
Greg, you're a weird dude, and I'm just getting... You can never figure out what your opinion is going to be on anything, either. Because you find weird things... to have Schweiss, back me up on this. You find weird things to have opinions on.
I'll back you up on this. Greg's got weird opinions.
I don't know. We're dealing with different chemistries. There's something that was in the water in Cleveland, Ohio.
It was probably lead.
Mercury.
I think the moment that Joe was born, Steve was born too, and they were like, there is another. It's fades to black, there will be a counter. When there is light, there must be darkness.
Oh my god. But Greg, I appreciate you going through this album for me. I really appreciate it. I know you did it as a personal favor. It's certainly it's really good to hear that you can warm up to this thing, because I know most people, to be honest, there's a Metallica for everyone, and it's not usually Justice for All. Justice for All is the Metallica for Metallica fans. There's a mid-90s Metallica is cool phase, where it was the popular band. That one is forgotten now. Then there's shit Metallica, which is Saint Anger, revitalized Metallica, which is Death Magnetic and Hardwired to Self-Destruct. There's the underground, more 70s sounding Metallica, which is Kill 'Em All, and then there's the metal gods version, which is Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, and then of course the Black Album is the one that's everybody fucking knows. And you know what? Metallica never kept a consistent sound, except for Ride the Lightning to Master of Puppets and Load to Reload, I guess. It's those are the only times in their discography where the albums make sense going from one to another. Metallica always grew. Metallica was always different. And most people, layman people that haven't gone through Metallica stuff, is oh, I like this song and I like this song. And, because Metallica has huge hits everywhere. But that's as far as they go. So it makes sense to kind of be oh, I can kind of get into this. I can't really get into this. But what's odd about you, Greg, is that you're not into rock Metallica. That's what's odd. I've never heard you discuss Load or Reload. Those are the bluesy rock, more fun Metallica. And I would think with your taste, that would be more your thing. And it's just odd to me that's never brought up. But anyway, that's how I feel about your guys' opinions. That's how I feel about your opinions, and then I'll discuss the album. Sounds like you have a rebuttal.
Yeah. So real quick, as far as Load and Reload, it's been a while since I've revisited those albums. Admittedly, the albums that I try to listen to the most with Metallica, in terms of me trying to get the band, are Black Album, everything before that, and Saint Anger for the lulz. So I kind of skip on Load and Reload because, from what I remember listening to those albums was they were like a little bit too bro-y for my taste. But I admittedly haven't listened to them in years, so I'm willing to go back to it and check it out. And as far as listening to this album, one of the things I try to do in general as a musician is challenge myself and challenge my preconceived notions of music. So when I went to jazz camp every summer in high school, I would intentionally take on the stuff that was most challenging and most foreign to me that I felt I had no grasp of, no understanding in order to better myself as a musician. So the first year at jazz camp, I did beatboxing because they had a beatboxing thing, and I thought beatboxing was bullshit and stupid, and I had no respect for it. So I said, let me try it. Let me see if I understand it. And through it, actually understood it, appreciated the craft, and learned that there was validity to that. And so with this, when you said, do you want to do And Justice, I thought, you know what? This is a good opportunity to sit and talk with someone who loves this music, understand why they love it, and maybe learn to love it myself and expand myself. And so I was very glad to do it. It was an honor to do it, and I had a great time. And
Yeah.
I'm open to checking out Load and Reload and digging into the catalog, but as it stands right now, there's a couple great tunes that are going to be in my rotation, and I'm very glad for that. And continue with your thoughts, sir.
Yeah, Justice for All is my favorite album. It's great, and that's the end of my spiel.
Yeah, I think it's funny that we talk about approachable music with these two groups, yet we choose the ultimate era of not approachable Metallica. Like this and Master of Puppets, it's like you've got to be into thrash. Like my wife's dad loves, Enter Sandman, and I'm like, yeah, Enter Sandman's a great song, but like Blackened and One and Master of Puppets and Welcome Home Sanitarium, those are songs, like Battery's a song, man, and as catchy as the Black Album is, it's like fourth best for me. Or third best, one of those, third or fourth. And like this is the era of Metallica where if you like metal, this is these three. You've got Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All. Those are like the niche, like you've been listening to Metallica for a while. I hand you a copy of this and I say, just give it a try. Like it's crazy compared to what you got in the Black Album, but if you try it out, you'll love it. And same thing goes for Rust in Peace from Megadeth. It's the exact same way. It's you liked a couple Megadeth singles from later in their career. You heard Countdown to Extinction. Now you got to go back to the good stuff, And it's like the good stuff that you got to warm up to truly.
So we started off,
appreciate.
Steve, on the worst albums for both these bands. Like, hey, here's the most inaccessible of both bands.
Yeah, arguably that is the case.
So can we really hate on Steve that much for being like, this inaccessible music makes no sense to me? It only took Greg 15 years and like 30-plus listens in a month to understand it.
Yeah. I don't know, it's getting deep into bands, and then you realize what the fans love versus, like, the fans of the bands love versus, like, what everybody loves. They always, like, Radiohead always has to play Creep. But, do Radiohead fans, like, love Creep? Probably not, right?
Radiohead doesn't love Creep.
They probably don't because they love Radiohead, so they don't love music that sounds appealing in any way. So I see where you're coming from. They made Creep so that people would be like, oh yeah, I like that one song, and then the fans are like, that song sounds like a song, not just a bunch of noises annoyingly composed. That's not Radiohead.
Steve, you like
No,
Radiohead,
I'm glad I
don't you?
started with the Black
Pretty
Album.
all right. I like their singles.
Yeah.
So
Metallica's Black Album's like half the album is big, huge singles that still play on the radio stations all the time.
True, they are.
Um,
Those are the mandatory ones.
So, yeah, those would be ones that maybe if you're going to start out on Metallica, obviously start with the Black Album. But, it's not the best. It's just not. It's great album. The best production, I think, if you're going to talk about production. But,
Oh yeah.
So I do have to retract one thing that I said this episode, and that is I got to pull back any credence I gave the Kerrang Awards, because I'm looking at the list of people who've won it, and there's an awful lot of sex criminals. Any award that's been won by both Lost Prophets and Louis C.K. probably isn't worth winning.
Oh, did Gary Glitter win anything?
I don't see him here, no.
Ah, bummer. All right, well, that's our episode.
On that note.
Joe, Caleb, where can people find you on the internet?
You can listen to one of our numerous podcasts. Joe and I do a weekly Final Fantasy show called Ultima Final Fantasy. I am on another podcast called Nude Clan. I do a Game of Thrones show called For a Few Chickens More, A Song of Schweiss and Johnson. And if you want to talk to me directly and co-conspire about how wrong these two lovely hosts that invited us on today are, you can tweet me on Twitter at UFF Podcast.
You can tweet me at JustBigolier, and I have another podcast called The Godzilla Podcast, which you can also check out. But I think that's about it for me.
And Steve, where can people find us on the internet?
As always, they can find us at lipstickgeneration.com and Lipstick Generation on most other platforms.
All right, well, that is our episode. Have a good one, folks. Peace.
Peace.